Hello, everyone. We are live, and welcome to the Gravity Max live stream. Today, we are talking about a fun topic, and we don't have a guest today, but it's just me and Sebastian. But I wouldn't say just, because we're a good team. So, yeah. So today we're going to be talking about cryptids, which you may have heard of before. And yeah, we refer to them as the lads, right?
The lads. The lads indeed. They come from the
Yep.
corners of the earth, mostly America, but they're terrifying. We're
A
gonna
lot
talk
are from
about them.
Greece as
A
well
lot from
that we're going
Greece.
to talk about. Um, yeah, so the lads. So these are just interesting things. So we'll get into them. Uh, but yeah, following up, it's an intense season. It's the red season intensity. That's what we're trying to do this season. So, so yeah. Um, so let's just get started with the plugs. First of all, visit the Gravity Max website at gravitymaxmedia.com. That is a domain that I bought, and I have information about my books there and information about, well, I have a little news page there. I haven't written much news. I wrote a few articles one week because I guess I just didn't want to make videos, right? I pretty much just took video scripts and then like things that couldn't quite justify a video and was like, let me just make these articles. So you can read some of those. Some of them are still relevant, so I think that might be fascinating if you want to read those. But yeah, just check out the website. So also follow Gravity Max on social media. We have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Patreon, and the links are in the description below. So you'll get updates and stuff. For instance, in 2 weeks, we're going to have an episode, and we're going to have to start it earlier because it's going to be a very long episode. It's about like the history of U.S. elections. So you'll see updates for that on social media, and I suggest you follow us on social media. Links in the description. So next, follow Sebastian on social media and check out his YouTube channel, 128 Seconds. Very good videos, very educational. They're weekly videos. They come out on Wednesdays, and they are 128 seconds long. And yeah, they just explain things concisely, while, here we do things, we just sort of ramble for two and a half
We make our
hours.
way through it. We go in depth. We
Yeah,
get we get past the skin, past the bone, and into the real meat of it. I know that's
yeah,
not the order, but we get into the meat of it.
yeah, whatever. Yeah, exactly. Get into the marrow, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, but Sebastian's videos are well produced and
Oh,
they provide like a
talking.
quick summary. They provide us a quick summary of these topics. So also he's on Instagram and Twitter at 128 seconds. Links to everything in the description. So finally, this is fun. A Bottled Up Flame coming to Amazon November 1st, which is a Sunday, which is the same day as our election stream. So I'm very excited. This is 2 weeks away, 2 weeks from today. November 1st is a big day for me, I would say, because publishing this book, doing an elections episode, I'm really excited for the elections episode because we're going to I've been doing so much research for this. I've been researching all the presidential elections, all 58 of them, and this is the 59th. So we're going to go through all of those. So I'm very excited for this date, November 1st. But yeah, check out A Bottled Up Flame. It is the sequel to my first book. It is there's a bit of a time gap. It's 29 years later. And I believe on my website, I actually have a preview. Let me just check that quickly. I believe on my website, I have a preview of the first few pages of A Bottled Up Flame. So if you want to get a sneak peek, you can go over there, go to the books tab, and check it out. Let's see. Let me make sure it's there. Yeah, it's there. So you can see that it's available. So check it out, and then in 2 weeks, buy the book. So yeah, that's it for plugs. Oh, and make sure if you want to talk to us today, to make use of the live chat because we like to respond to the chat. But yeah, that's it. So now the topic,
The topic.
the lads,
The lab. There it is. The lads.
the lads.
Yeah. So some real spooky boys. It's the month of October.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
now all of the spooks and the scaries come out between the cracks of our known universe and function
Yeah.
to make us terrified. It's spooky month, so we give you a spooky topic. And here, the lads.
Yeah, the
All the
lads.
cryptids. This isn't all of them, but it's a
Yeah.
bunch of them. I want to point out that the picture of the Yeti is even
Hmm.
more scuffed than the Sasquatch picture. We were
Really.
saying that
Yeah.
Sasquatch looks like he's like, what, just like he doesn't have a towel and he has to
Yeah,
like walk
exactly.
out of the
Yeah, he
bathroom
has to,
dripping wet to find it.
and then
Yeah,
someone sees him.
the
Yeah.
Yeti looks like he saw Sasquatch doing that and he's running away in like shame.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just love this. Sebastian made this little graphic for the most part. I like it.
Thank you.
It's a Zoom meeting. Very cool.
Don't
But
ask
yeah,
me. Don't ask me how I got that picture of the Jersey Devil. It was tough.
okay, I won't ask.
Yeah, you
I won't
probably
ask.
should.
But yeah, so cryptids, the definition of a cryptid is that it is a fictional creature or animal that is purported to exist, but there has been no scientific confirmation. So, the world of science, and this is pretty revolutionary, they're able to confirm the fact that dogs exist or cats exist, right, with empirical evidence. Very obvious. But in a more serious note, science has actually been able to find some rarer species. Like you have the rogue biologist, not really rogue, I mean, they're on an expedition. They go out into like the middle of the Amazon rainforest, and every year they find new animals there, new species there, because it's a very, like, lots of biodiversity there. And so yeah, there are new species all the time, and so there is evidence, and we find new species. But these species, these creatures that people think exist, haven't actually been confirmed, other than like blurry photos and questionable eyewitness accounts. But we're still going to talk about them because they are fun. So yeah, that is the lads. All right.
The boys and
Yeah.
girls.
So let's. Yeah. Yeah. And girls. Uh, so let's start with classic cryptids. So the classic cryptids are probably the ones that are better known and that you've just heard of, just in casual conversation, even. Um, these are just like creatures, they're not part of any mythology or anything. They're just sort of urban legends, I guess you could say. So,
Yeah, if you and they've
yeah.
been making their way more into like memes,
Mm,
like
yeah, and pop culture.
and pop culture and stuff. I don't know why they're making a comeback, but I'm happy for it.
Yeah, I think people just, I don't know, they find them entertaining.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Here,
Yeah,
I
I
want to
find them
make a
interesting.
meme with some of these pictures. You can
Yeah.
keep going.
All right, all right. Yeah, that's all I really have to say about the classic cryptids. Let's
Yeah,
get started with
let's hop right into them.
our first lad. We got
The
the
Squatch.
Squatch, also known as the Sasquatch or as Bigfoot. So the Squatch is typically found in the Pacific Northwest, although there are Bigfoot sightings nationwide. I believe that Bigfoot is probably the best known cryptid. If you know of only one cryptid, it is probably Bigfoot. And if you're in America. So if you are in America and only know of one cryptid, it is probably Bigfoot. That is what I posit. That is my hypothesis. So yeah, the Squatch, Pacific Northwest, but generally it can be sort of anywhere that there is forest and there are people to take blurry photos. But yeah, so you know a bit of the origin myth behind this, right? I think you
Yeah.
researched this one.
So
Yeah.
the Sasquatch comes from the Native American word. I think
Hmm.
it's also Sasquatch. But so right here we have the date as like the 1800s, popularized in the 1970s. That's when it really
Mm-hmm.
got into the mainstream. Like in the 1800s, there was a lot more. There was a lot nicer interaction with the
Mm-hmm.
Native American people because in the 1700s and even the early 1800s, we weren't nice to them. But
Mm-hmm.
we started like talking to them. Like researchers started going out and talking to these tribes, and they heard of the legend of the Sasquatch, which is, he's said to be a 6 to 9 foot tall wild man. And they're like, oh, this sounds cool. So they write that down, and then they take it back. Then they make a ton of movies about it. But it was popularized in the 70s because that's when this picture was taken. I think it was taken in, like...
okay.
No, in 71. I'm going to guess 71.
Sure.
When was that Bigfoot?
Yeah, this is interesting. In the 1800s, there was a lot, early 1800s, I would say, there was a lot of speculation over the continents of like what was out there. You know, you've got the Lewis and Clark expeditions and the whole Louisiana Purchase, which essentially doubled the size of the United States. This was at the start of the 1800s, but people were venturing out west, and as they did so, there were a lot of theories early on that like there could still be living dinosaurs out west. That was one theory, actually. They theorized that like woolly mammoths were still alive out west. All these extinct species, they thought there were, crazy things out west. But, we made our way west and found that the only crazy things were Californians, right? But I'm just kidding. But yeah, so the Sasquatch was, I would say, probably one of those not mythical, but one of those theorized creatures that some people believe to be out there because, it was the frontier. There's a lot of mystery involved with that. You don't know exactly what is ahead of you as you venture out. So this is an interesting one. But yeah, when was that photo taken?
I am not seeing it. I saw one that it said it actually might have been 1967.
Okay.
But in any case, that still would have led to it being popular in the 1970s.
Yeah.
But yeah. A decent amount of these are from Native American myth. And then we're going to get into the older ones, which are obviously all Greek myth.
Yeah.
But, yeah. The Sasquatch, most well-known one, definitely. In my mind, I like to put the lads or anything on the political compass, and I think the Sasquatch is the true centrist.
He's the true centrist.
The most centrist out of any of the cryptids.
I just want to grill. That's interesting. So Sasquatch is very interesting. I believe there is a show, and I think it is still in the running, or it might have been canceled. I'm not sure. That's called Hunting Bigfoot, where these people go out into the woods. They show the preparations, right? They put some food, set some traps, set some automatic cameras, and then you get some fun footage of like people on infrared cameras where it's all green and like their eyes are glowing, and they're just running around like, oh my God, did you hear that? And that's the show, just that over and over again, and they never actually find it. But that sort of shows how popular Bigfoot has become, that there's a whole show on it.
It was 1967.
All right.
It's called the Patterson-Gimlin film. It's actually a 1-minute stop motion film.
Oh. Huh.
So kind of crazy.
Yeah. That's interesting. Also, we have hostility listed, and we have this at neutral. So we'll talk about these. If you encounter these in the wild, what should your first steps be? Like, how should you react? Should you run away, or like, is it gonna try and kill you? Like, what's gonna happen? So this guy's neutral, and we use the Minecraft mob hostility rating system here, which includes passive, neutral, and hostile. And so this guy's neutral, which is like an Enderman. So this means that, or a pigman, zombie pigman. So if you don't attack them, if you don't provoke them, then they'll leave you alone. So that's sort of what's theorized with Bigfoot. No one has really been attacked by Bigfoot. No one has really claimed, I have been attacked by Bigfoot, right? So yeah. You just gotta keep a distance, take some blurry photos. And it has to be a blurry photo. Yeah, it's funny. For some reason, with all of these, whenever there's a photo, it's always a blurry photo. People like to joke about that and sort of criticize that. But I think that's just a sort of natural selection thing. So when you, if any given photo were to be of better resolution, you would be able to figure out what it is. And I would say in most cases, it probably isn't the cryptid. So that's why the only photos of these cryptids that remain are blurry photos because they don't contain enough information one way or the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and fun fact, in 1974, the National Wildlife Federation actually funded a field study seeking Bigfoot evidence. So the National Wildlife Federation, like Bigfoot was getting so popular in the 1970s that it was like, you know what? Let's fund a field study.
Wow, that's fun. It reminds me of the time that 100,000 or no, just 25,000 Star Wars fans petitioned the U.S. government to build the Death Star, and that 25,000 number meant that they didn't have to pass the bill, but they had to, have a House or Senate meeting, and they had to consider it, and so they had to formally write, "We will not be passing this bill for these reasons." But it was pretty funny. And it's the reason that now a petition needs 100,000 signatories, not just 25,000, because they don't want to have to deal with stupid crap like that,
Yeah.
like the Death Star. So, yeah, so I find that interesting.
We have stuff in chat.
We have Stop It in chat. Well, of course, the people attacked by Bigfoot have not survived to warn anyone. That's true. That's a possibility. Bigfoot never attacks you. Yeah, so I would say probably until he does. Bigfoot never attacks you until he does. Yeah, so I would say maybe it's if you provoke Bigfoot, then you get attacked. Because if he were hostile, this camera guy here would not be doing very well. So
yeah,
this film would not exist.
Exactly.
So I would say, oh yeah, and what is the Sasquatch exactly? I guess we never exactly went over that. It's supposed to be like ape-like, right? I mean, you said wild man, I guess, but yeah, covered in like hair. So it's kind of like a caveman, I guess, but and how intelligent is it supposed to be? Because some of these creatures are actually meant to be like intelligent, like human level intelligences. So what would you say?
There's a lot of different beliefs because he's gotten to be so so popular.
Yeah.
But I would say that the vast majority of them say that he's an animal. He's got animal level intelligence, like an ape.
Okay, so some sort of primate, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense. So yeah, that's the Sasquatch. I don't think we need to say much more. Very cool lad. So yeah, the next lad here we've got is Nessie.
This is my girl. Yeah. Oh, how I love Nessie. This was the first one that I ever heard of. I think first cryptid. Unless I'm looking at these. No, yeah, I think it is the first cryptid I ever heard of.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be in Loch Ness, Scotland. That's why she's got the name Nessie, because she's from Scotland.
Yeah, the Loch Ness monster.
Yeah. And this one is kind of similar to Sasquatch, both because they're these two are the most famous. We don't get to the third famous one until a little longer, but Nessie has been in Scottish/Gaelic myth for we don't know how long, but it was in the 1930s that a lot of people actually went out there to try and find it. And it was when that doctor faked this picture. Like, this is a fake picture of Nessie that we have up. That's a branch. And he takes this picture, I think it was in 1930-ish, like in the 1930s. And he's like, guys, look at this. And he's some, like, zoologist, because, like, zoologists were cool in, like, the early 1900s, late 1800s, when they would go on like expeditions. Nowadays, zoologists just like study monkey shit for a living. But he takes this picture and he's like, "This will finally make me like the greats," But he came out later and he was like, "Yeah, so 10-4 in that one, guys. It's actually a fake picture. that I took. That's a branch. My boy Vinny's actually like holding it from under the water. Sorry about
Wow.
that. But
Top 10 anime betrayals.
yeah, since then, a lot of people have actually reported seeing some wriggling creature. Well, by the way, that's the
Mm.
worst word in the English dictionary. Is wriggling
Wriggling.
creature in Loch Ness. Swimmers beware.
Mm.
And we said this one was probably at a passive hostility
Hmm.
because there are no real reports of it. Um, no real reports of it attacking anyone. It's usually like I saw it across the lake and it wriggled
Ah,
around,
okay.
stuff like that. But we have Stop It
Yeah.
in chat again. If you
Oh,
want
we
to
have
look
more
it up.
Stop It chat. Let's see what Stop It says. PR. He must retain his reputation to instill fear into his victims. Uh, oh yes, wait. Of course, Bigfoot will not attack the camera person. Sorry, that came first. So yeah, so he was talking about Bigfoot there. Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, so Nessie, I find this one fascinating because Nessie like sort of resembles like most people's idea of the Loch Ness monster resembles like the actual plesiosaur, which was a dinosaur. Um, and so it's always been like Nessie always looks like a plesiosaur, and so
Yeah,
I guess some theories have been that it's a surviving plesiosaur,
yeah, something like that. But the thing
but
is that,
yeah.
and I don't know, are if plesiosaurs are like what they eat. It's a
Uh-huh.
fish, so it's probably carnivorous.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
Nessie has never ever scared me, and
Okay. Yeah.
everyone should know this. You're gonna find this out later. I don't like big water stuff.
Yeah,
Like
he does
big
not.
creatures in the water. Like I have a phobia
Yeah.
of mermaids.
Mhm.
And I just don't like big powerful creatures in the water under me, beneath my feet. I don't like it. But Nessie has
Mm.
never scared me because she's shaped like a friend. She's not.
Mm.
She doesn't. That does not look threatening. And I know that this is like a branch, but this is what
Yeah. Yeah.
most people say that the thing looks like.
Yeah.
And a lot of people draw her all like cutesy and stuff.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's
let's see what
interesting.
plesiosaur eats.
I'm not exactly sure what part of the world the plesiosaurs were native to, but I would presume they would be, found in oceans, not lakes, and a loch is a lake. Um,
Yeah, Plesiosaurus was a
so
carnivore, more
okay.
specifically a piscivore that ate
Hmm.
primarily
So they ate
small
fish.
marine life such as fish and mollusks also. So
Hmm.
she can't she can't get you, man.
Yeah, it's just like a whale. It's just the beta version of a whale.
Yeah, honestly,
Uh,
I'm not getting like any fear from this thing.
yeah,
Oh, okay, that picture is actually kind of cursed of the
bit of a
plesiosaurus.
cursed. Yeah.
Yeah, there's if you Google
Well,
it,
that's
there's
just
some cursed stuff.
1930s. Oh, there are some cursed images.
Yeah,
Well, yeah. So I guess in general,
but
so
Nessie's
yeah.
nice. I like
So there are often just myths of like, oh, the dinosaurs are still around somehow. So I feel like Nessie has sort of become attached with that. Do you know if like this has always been the description of Nessie? Like this picture, was that what people described Nessie as
In
before?
the myths that came before, it was always something like that. It was just they
Like a
always,
long neck.
yeah,
Huh. Now that's really fascinating because they didn't find dinosaur fossils until like sometime in the 1800s. I forget who exactly. It was like I think it was something Edmonton or something like that. He found, and it wasn't even a plesiosaur. He found here. Wait, I'll look up plesiosaur discovery date. Plesiosaur discovery date, and I just find this fascinating because if Nessie sort of okay, so it was 19th century by Mary Anning. Um, but yeah, so maybe like when they found a plesiosaur, right? So this is 1811. They discovered some plesiosaur fossils. Maybe when they found the plesiosaur, it sort of like changed people's imaginings uh, of Nessie, of the Loch Ness monster. What do you
hmm.
think? Yeah, so I'll show you actually. I'm going to put an image in
Okay.
of a plesiosaur right here. So yeah, just show that to everyone. If that's what you were thinking of when you're thinking of Nessie, right? I mean, that looks quite a bit like Nessie. So I don't know if the Gaelic myth, I guess it's a bit of a chicken and the egg problem. And what would be the most fascinating conclusion is if the myth that Nessie looked like this predated the discovery of the fossils, right? So I guess we don't exactly know because, myths can like slowly change over time, right?
Yeah.
And so if something was from 1811, then maybe by the time it was 1930, the myth had shifted because of the discovery of the plesiosaur skeleton. But if it was more rigid and actually if there's evidence that before 1811 people were describing Nessie like this, I think that would be very fascinating. I don't personally believe in this theory, but it would lend credence to the theory that Nessie is actually a surviving plesiosaur because, if it predated the discovery of the fossils, right, that would sort of mean that there was something there, right? But I don't believe that to be true. I think dinosaurs are gone. They're just fossils now. But who knows? Maybe we can Jurassic Park it up, right?
Yeah.
Although I'm pretty sure Jurassic Park was meant to be a warning why not to do that, but life finds a way, right?
Life does find a way.
But yeah, so that's Nessie. That's Nessie.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
We got Jersey Devil.
Yeah, the Jersey Devil. So
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the Jersey Devil is from Pine Barrens, New Jersey, and it was in 1735 was the date that it was supposedly created. And so it's also known as the Leeds monster because there was this woman named what was her name? Something Leeds.
Jenny Leeds or
yeah,
Jess
something like that.
Leeds?
Some 1735 name, right?
Jane Leeds?
I don't know. Maybe it was
here, Jersey.
Yeah. But yeah, let's see. Who was it?
Jane Leeds.
Okay,
right on
Jane Leeds.
one.
So Leeds was the mother of 12 children, right? And then she was going to have a 13th child. And that was not good because, as we all know, 13 is the bad number, right? So it's the unlucky number. So she was freaking out, right? Like, oh no, this is going to be this child is not going to be okay. And so then eventually the child was born, right? And to everyone's horror, it morphed into a goat winged devil thing a few seconds after it was born, just started screaming and then flew out the window. And now it haunts New Jersey, New Jersey wilderness to this day. So
it's not even brave enough to go into the cities. It stays
exactly. It stays in the woods. Yeah. So yeah, Jane Leeds. Oh yeah, we have it there. So she thought that it would be the devil. She was right. And so the Jersey Devil is hostile. It'll attack you if it comes into contact with you. This thing is just grotesque, I would say. Pretty horrifying, but there are other cryptids in here that I feel are more
we have Max's greatest fear on this list.
Yeah, I don't know greatest fear. Because I also sort of appreciate, I guess, the aesthetics of this one,
Aesthetics, okay.
Even though it terrifies me. So I would say it's the Jersey Devil, I would say, sort of lacks the suspense factor. But it is just this horrifying, screeching, banshee that'll just fly around. That's another thing. I imagine it like a bat, right? It'll just come crashing, it'll just crash into your window, just flap about the room, right? Bite your ear off, then leave.
Yeah.
That's what I imagine the Jersey Devil doing. It's got, what do people say? I remember people saying this, crackhead energy.
Crackhead energy.
Have you heard that phrase, crackhead energy?
I've heard that phrase.
I think that would be appropriate to attribute it to the Jersey Devil. That the Jersey Devil has crackhead energy, as people say.
It does. Also, this is one of the more lib-right cryptids, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, on the political compass, where
On
you
the
would put it?
political compass.
Yeah, where would you put Nessie?
Nessie is she's also kind of a centrist, but
Okay.
she's in the I would say she's in lib left, you know.
Hmm. Well, it's also British politics, so it's a bit different.
What?
Right?
It's Scottish politics. We
Actually,
throw
the
our
Isle is
swords
called.
on top of each other to
Mm-mm.
decide who we go to war with, and if
I
they
did not
cross,
say.
I
I did
get to
not
take
say.
the princess's daughter, and we start
Okay.
a new war. I'm
I did
Scottish.
not
It's
say
okay.
English. I did not say English politics. I said British, and British refers to the entire island. So.
Well, I'm sorry, Max Bartholomew Rudin the Fourth, that I
Uh huh.
insulted your parliamentary geography.
You did not. You did not. You did not insult me. I'm fine. All right.
Okay,
So yeah.
you're
So
gonna recover. You're gonna
I'm
get
gonna
back up on
recover.
your feet
I'm gonna
after
recover. I
I
just. I
called
just wanted to. I
Scotland
just wanted
kind of.
to. I just wanted to point that out to people so that they were not misled about the facts of the situation.
We're supposed to be talking about the Jersey Devil, and we're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
stuff.
we were. Well, Jersey is also part of Great Britain, right? Because that's why there's a New Jersey.
They
But
can't keep taking our land, man.
but yeah, so yeah, this thing is like just a combination of like the worst pieces put together, I feel.
Yeah, the description on the poster
Yeah.
described as a kangaroo-like patchwork with the face of a horse, the head of a dog, leathery bat-like wings, horns, small arms with cloven hooves, and a forked tail. That's
Yeah.
just like picking and choosing the worst possible parts of every single
Uh-huh.
animal.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. It's like so strange. It's just like grotesque, I would say. That's what it is. It's like I feel like it appeals to like body horror, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's just like it's got all the proportions wrong. It's just a weird thing. And so, yeah, so it'll attack you if you're out in New Jersey. So just another reason among many why you shouldn't go to New Jersey. Right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, again, just kidding. But yeah, so what else about this guy? Um, I can't really think of anything else to say.
He's definitely hostile. This
Hmm.
man will attack you on sight.
Mm,
You don't have a chance if you meet him.
you don't
You
have a
gotta,
chance.
it's actually no. I think I could throw hands. I talked a
Yeah.
lot on this show about who I could not take in a fight.
Hmm.
I think I could take the Jersey Devil in a fight if I had a couple of
Yeah.
Kasatakis in me.
I think if you happened to have just a blunt object with you,
Yeah,
you would be able to make quick work of the
because
Jersey Devil.
okay, it's a goat,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I imagine it as about like half as large as a human, like half as tall as a human. So like if you were just, if you just casually had a baseball bat with you,
Jersey
right?
Devil. Yeah, well, it's
You'd
New
be able to
Jersey,
get
so
rid of
everyone's
it.
got a baseball bat. New Jersey
Yeah.
Devil proportions.
Yeah, how big is this thing supposed to be?
Not the roller coaster.
Oh yeah, there's a roller coaster named
Yeah.
after it. That's fun.
I'm gonna call
So,
it as big as a goat. I'm gonna say
all right, all right.
maybe a really long, like a record-breaking goat. You know,
Okay, that's fair.
goat
That's fair.
length. Overall height of 30 inches, and it weighs between 44 and 310 pounds.
Ooh,
Let's say the Jersey
that.
Devil's been lifting.
Oh no.
Let's say
Yeah,
he's
that would be
300 pounds, and
that would be pretty hard to fend off, I would say.
300 pounds.
That would be
Yeah.
more difficult. That
It's
would be more
true.
difficult.
It's true. And you would say he's got the aerial advantage, but the
Mm-hmm.
thing is he has to come down to you. You don't have to go up to him. That's the thing.
I guess that's true, but he has the high ground. I mean, that's
He
just
does have the high
indisputable. He
ground.
has the high ground. I mean, what like
That's true.
so yeah. So hope you don't come into contact with this thing is what I would say. Just yeah, try not to go into the woods in New Jersey. I feel like if you're already in New Jersey, why would you just tempt fate by going into the
Yeah, at
woods?
the end of this, we should say which one we would not most. Which one we think is the worst one to stay in a room with.
stay in a room with for how long?
5 seconds.
5 seconds, dude. I mean, whatever.
No, not whatever.
Not whatever.
Some of the things on the
All
list
right,
could kill
all
you
right.
in like half that.
Okay. We'll see. All right. So I think that's enough for the
It's
Jersey Devil. We can get
Devil.
this
Next
monstrosity
up,
off the screen.
Next
Yeah.
up,
Now
we
we got
Headless Horseman.
yeah the
Coming
Headless
from
Horseman.
Tarrytown, New York. So
Yep.
you've heard the story, or at least I think it's still relevant. We never had to read it for school, but I read it in
Yeah.
school. You know, like they had this book
hmm
within the school, but it wasn't
hmm
required reading.
Yeah.
But
They
in
had it
any
at the
the
library.
case, it follows the story of Ichabod Crane, and he goes to upstate New York. And the story is set in 1790.
hmm
Basically, Ichabod is chased by this absolute mad lad who is on his crazy horse, and he doesn't have a head,
hmm
making him the Headless Horseman. And he has a
Yeah.
pumpkin, a rotting pumpkin for his head that he takes and throws at Ichabod.
Nice.
But yeah, that book was published in 1820.
Yeah. What was it called? It was The Legend of
The
Sleepy
Legend
Hollow.
of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is really interesting. Who was it by?
I can tell you the Legend
Forgot.
of Sleepy Hollow. Give it up for Washington Irving.
All right, Washington Irving. Yeah, this is a pretty interesting one because it's actually like from specifically a book.
Mm.
And I guess so I would say we get to some things here that are not strictly cryptids, I guess. It's sort of hard to define exactly what a cryptid is and what's an urban legend. So I feel like if you wanted to be a pedantic semantic person, right? I feel like you could say this is not a cryptid, but we're going to talk about it anyway, right? So yeah, I mean, the Headless Horseman is in so much pop culture, so much media now, and I think that makes sense because he originally started as the antagonist of a book, which was the 1820s version of pop culture. Um, and yeah, I just find some of these, I find this interesting along with the Jersey Devil, just because it's like colonial America. Although 1790, 1820, that is after the revolution, but it's still like, it's still in your New York, it's still in your 13 original colonies around that time period. So I like it's sort of colonial era, like revolutionary era type things. So I feel like it sort of is just fascinating to look through this lens at like what were the cultural implications, like what's going on in these time periods that make people like Washington Irving think of this messed up tale, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know why this of all things took off so much, I mean, I guess it's sort of iconic because you have the black horse. It's very like Halloween-esque with the pumpkin too. I think the pumpkin is what has solidified this as a timeless myth because now we have Halloween, and Halloween, the symbol of Halloween above anything else, has got to be the pumpkin, right? The jack-o'-lantern. There are other symbols of Halloween, but the pumpkin is the most, and this is what I'm positing, it's the most recognizable, and it's the most associated with Halloween. But yeah, I don't think they actually had Halloween in the 1820s. I believe that's more of a modern thing, Halloween. I mean, it comes from All Hallows Eve, right? And that's pagan, I believe. And so yeah, I mean, in the 1820s, you know how they thought about not being Christian, right? So they did not celebrate Halloween. But now Halloween's a big thing, and it centers around pumpkins. And so it's really fascinating the small-ish detail of including that he has a pumpkin for a head and he throws it at Ichabod Crane. It's like, of all things, right? If he had said, any other thing like a gourd or a squash, right? It wouldn't have been as iconic because people wouldn't they wouldn't relate it to Halloween, because they wouldn't have the pumpkin. So that's just really interesting to me. Like, it's an interesting coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in American folklore, so the
Mm-hmm.
Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the book, um, it holds that the Horseman was a Hessian trooper, with a German trooper,
Mm.
that worked for the British, who was
Yeah.
killed during the Battle of White Plains in 1776.
Mm.
He was decapitated by an American
Ooh.
cannonball.
Ooh. That's really fascinating, actually, because, yeah, I was just talking about, the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
That's just a clear reference to the Revolutionary War. That's pretty interesting. So, yeah, the Hessians, basically the British, they didn't have enough people, so they hired these German mercenaries called the Hessians. But
The
yeah, that's
Mercs.
the Mercs. Yeah. So that's really fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. This is a pretty cool one, even if it's not strictly a cryptid, but yeah.
Yeah, he's
So
also
nice.
in Skyrim, by the way.
Mm.
You can see him just riding around in a
Hmm.
ghostly form. The first time I
Nice.
saw that, I was like, "What is happening?" Yeah.
Yeah,
But anyways,
that's pretty cool.
on
Yeah,
to the next one.
on to the next one. The goat,
Goatman.
the goat
Oh,
man.
give it up for Goatman. If you've seen BuzzFeed Unsolved, this is the two guys.
Oh, this is.
They go out on the bridge.
Oh,
Goatman's
they.
bridge.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That this is. They do this in BuzzFeed Unsolved. They
Yes,
talk about
they
this one.
follow the
Wow.
story of what this is, and
Hmm.
here's the story in my best
Yeah.
narrator voice. Oh,
All
I
right.
need a drink of water.
Okay.
Oscar Washburn was a successful goat shepherd, earning him the nickname of Goatman. But one night, the KKK assaulted him, tied a noose around his neck, and threw him over a bridge. When they checked for his dangling body, the noose was empty. Dun
Yeah.
dun
So this.
dun.
Yeah. So this is a pretty messed up one. I mean, these are all sort of messed up things, but this is a pretty explicitly disturbing one because this is something that would actually happen in this time period. Like lynchings of African Americans in the South. This takes place in Denton, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
which is a southern state. Um, so yeah, even without the cryptidness of it, this would just be a disturbing story on its own. And so yeah, this took place in like the late 1930s. So that's definitely, this story is, without the supernatural elements, is something that would happen on occasion in the 1930s. Oh, it's starting to rain here. I hope
Mm.
it's not messing up my audio.
No.
But yeah, so essentially, uh, once he got killed, or like, I don't know, he got reincarnated as like the Goat Man or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or not or just he morphed into the Goat Man or something like that. And now he guards this one bridge called the Goat Man's Bridge now. And it's like, if you stop on the bridge, right? If you stall or if you honk 3 times or something like that, he'll like appear. And like, what'll he do? What'll he do to you?
Okay, here. So if you go across this bridge,
Mm-hmm.
locals warn that if you cross the bridge at night without headlights, you will be met on the other side by the Goat Man. Ghostly figures and strange lights are said to appear in the surrounding woods, as well as
Mm-hmm.
reports of visitors being touched, grabbed, and having rocks thrown at them. Huh.
Hmm.
I don't think he's ever outright attacked someone, but it seems like
Okay.
he's ready to go.
He's preparing.
He's prepared.
Also, this photo, he's doing a vibe check
He
in this
is.
photo.
He's gonna get you.
So that's just inherently a pretty scary thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this story, do you know how this origin myth, how is this popularized, this story? Like, when did it come?
Um. I don't really know, but I think
Okay.
that Oscar Washburn might have actually been a real guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he might really have been killed by the
Wow.
KKK. It was 1938 that this story supposedly took place
Mm-hmm.
in. Um, so the going more in depth into the story, He was an African American entrepreneur, and his family owned a goat farm known for their meat, milk, and cheese, and he was very successful. And one night he put up a sign on the bridge advertising his farm. And this was the last straw for the local clan members, and they planned to kill him and his family. They did kill his family. So that sucks.
That's really disturbing.
Yeah, but it's weird is that a lot of places actually have a Goatman. This is just the most famous
Really?
one. But yeah, because I think because there's a more fleshed out story towards it, but if you just Google Goatman, you're gonna get Goatman from Kentucky, a Goatman from Maryland, and a Goatman from Texas that isn't this one, actually.
Oh, a different
But
place
hold
in
on,
Texas.
this looks interesting because in the Kentucky one, it's also tied to a bridge, which is really strange. That's called the Pope Lick Monster in Kentucky, reported to live beneath a railroad trestle bridge. Do you think it's because of the 3 billy goats that went over the bridge? You know, and the troll under
I don't know.
I don't know.
There's a thing about goats and there's a thing about bridges. Like both of these things, these concepts for some reason, like bridges are always seen as like, I don't know, like they're always in mythology just in general as like bad places. You don't want to be at the bridge.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's bad things always happen at the bridge for some reason. And I guess that sort of makes sense because bridges can be dangerous more than any other like uniform area of land. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because also I imagine it's like the bridge is like a choke point for, and I'm not trying to, you know, obviously make any jokes.
Oh my god.
I just no. But what I mean is a bridge is as in if you're trying to get from one place to another, it's like difficult, like you have to cross a bridge, right? So it tends to be a place that confrontations occur. Yeah. So I don't know. There's a lot of bridge stuff.
I'm willing to
yeah.
I'm willing to subscribe to the theory that says that these are the three goats, the 3 billy goats that went over the bridge and they got stopped by. What even is that myth? I don't know. Like I know the 3 goats and the troll. Like I know that's in my head. I don't know what the actual myth is. Like I can't remember. Do you remember what it is?
Not. I think it's something with a riddle.
Yeah, usually there's like some point here. Goats, gruff. Yeah. Yeah, it's a Norwegian fairy tale. Alright, once upon a time there's 3 billy goats. They show up to this thing and they go over the bridge and then this troll shows up. He's like, "Who's there?" And it's like, the billy goat is like, "Oh, it's just me. I'm just the tiniest out of my 3 bros, you know." And the troll's like, "No, I'm gonna eat you, fam." And he's like, the billy goat says, "No, wait a bit. My brother is gonna come over after me. He's way bigger." And the troll's like, "Alright, I got you, fam." So then the second one comes up, and basically the same interaction happens.
Okay.
And
what does the third one do? The
third one gets there, and the troll's like, "Alright, it's time." And he just kills the troll.
Oh, okay.
That's the original Norwegian myth. That's the original Norwegian myth. Now I want to find the Americanized version.
The Americanized version.
Story.
Oh boy.
Yeehaw. But I feel like this could be an offshoot of this thing. Like maybe this is the dark universe where they got killed by the troll, or maybe they kill the troll and they go into the like they were going across the bridge to eat the grass there and get fat. Maybe that grass was like cursed grass and turned them all into these demons. You know?
Interesting.
Okay, so this is the American one, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, yeah, what's the American one?
Oh, wait, no, that's the Norwegian one again. Even though I'm on AmericanLiterature.org.
Wow. Maybe they're Norwegian Americans.
Okay, here we go. Okay, same main story.
Uh-huh.
And then the third billy goat gets on, and the hungry troll is like, "All right, fam, I'm starved." However, the
Yeah.
third billy goat challenges the troll and knocks him off the bridge with his horns. And the
Okay.
troll falls into the stream and is carried away by the current.
So it's just the same thing.
It's the same thing, and the moral of the story is like, get
Yeah,
your
what's the
beefiest friend to fight the beefiest of enemies. But
Okay.
in the Norwegian one, they do not hold back. They're like, and he took his horns and stabbed his eyes out.
Oh,
and
no.
removed his head and stuff.
Oh, yeah. A lot of the Scandinavian
Yeah.
mythology can be a little eccentric, I would say. But yeah, there's also just goats in general are always associated with like Satan and stuff.
Yeah.
I think you talked about that. That was from the Bible. There was like the king.
The king.
Yeah.
The king had all the sheep on his right hand and all the sheep on his left, and it was an allegory for, it was advice for farmers because it was more advantageous to keep different animals, different plots of animals, different species of animals apart from each other. Like, you didn't want to mix the sheep in with the goats because they have like different diets, and the goats like might kill the sheep, you know. So he separates them, and that was basically what it was saying. But then people took that as, you know, as that separation is important. And then later in the Bible, you know, Jesus does a lot of things with sheep, so the sheep were seen as being of God, and naturally because the sheep were seen as of God and the goats were being separated away from the sheep, the goats were then, you know, it's not that hard to make the jump to say that the goats would have been of the devil, you know.
Yeah, there's also a thing with right and left, is that since more people tend to be righties, it just so happens, which is really, there is no reason for it. You know, it's just as likely that you could have more people disposed to being lefties. It's just a random trait, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, there's very little correlation. Like, basically, I think it's something like 2 right-handed parents have like a 9% chance of having a left-handed child, but then 2 left-handed parents only have like a 19% chance of having a left-handed child. So like, even like, it's not even like, it's kind of correlated, but it's not even a guarantee, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, so left-handedness has always just been associated, and just the left like direction has always been associated with like Satan and bad things in the Bible.
What you saying there, Max?
What do you mean? What am I? Left-handed, left direction?
About the political compass.
Oh, I'm not talking about that. You're thinking too much about the political compass is what I would argue. I think you're. How many hours in the past week have you spent on r/political compass memes?
Too many, dog.
Too many.
Too many. I'm like halfway to writing my own.
Writing your own dissertation.
Yeah, or whatever. What would you call a manifesto? That was the word.
You don't want to write a manifesto.
Well, I mean, like the communist manifesto, but like, you know, but better.
Yeah,
but
better.
What's the definition of a manifesto?
I think it's literally just like a book, but it's gotten a lot of connotations
public
since
declaration of policy and aims, especially when issued before an election by a political party or candidate. See, I'm not the Unabomber.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying connotation versus denotation, right?
That's very true.
But yeah, so what was I saying? I was talking about, so right-handedness. So people actually, like, in like the 1800s, like if you were to go to school and, you know, just exist and just be a lefty, you know, you'd get the ruler and they'd be like, you must write with your right hand. There are a ton of people from that time period that are actually lefties, but write with their right hand just because basically their schools were like, you are of Satan, you must write with your right hand. So yeah. But yeah.
Anyways, that is the Goatman. May or may not be part of the 3 Billy Goats gruff. May or may not be the origin myth that we have here. Either way, he's hostile and he wants your goats or whatever he takes from you because it's kind of.
I don't think he wants your goats.
I think he just wants your life, honestly.
I think this story this version of the story he wants revenge is what I would say. He wants revenge. But yeah.
All right.
So yeah, that's the Goatman.
Next up, the Mothman. Y'all knew he was here. This is probably this is what I was referring to when I said the third most popular cryptid. Mothman has become such a big meme, and like to certain people, to niche parts of the internet, some people revere the Mothman. He's from West Virginia, which the entire state reveres the Mothman.
Yeah, it's from Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
There's a movie, The Mothman Files, I think it's called, which is such a weird movie. Yeah, I know that's a book, but I think there's Mothman movie, which like my dad made me watch, like the Mothman Prophecies. It came out in 2002. And my dad just sat down and made me watch it. He was like, "Tell me what you think about this." And I'm like, "Dad, I'm negative 2.
I'm negative 2 years old."
Yeah.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So this is from November 16th, 1966. And I believe that's when it was first spotted. And then the article came out the day after. So it was spotted on the night of November 16th, 1966. And then the next day, the Point Pleasant Register wrote this article that was "Couples see man-sized bird, creature, something." And then it was like testimonies from a ton of different people that were like, "Yeah, I saw the Mothman out in the woods." And so they were like, "What is this Mothman?" Right? And so we have hostility as neutral, but I feel like I might have misdiagnosed that. Maybe it should be passive because it hasn't really attacked anyone.
Yeah,
it just
we could say
just sort of stands there. I mean, I guess no one has tried to provoke it yet.
Okay, so
has it ever been provoked?
We say passive, right, and neutral and hostile, but that doesn't necessarily mean good, neutral, and evil. Because in the movie, the Mothman wasn't necessarily evil. Like, he was causing weird stuff to happen, but he kind of helped the protagonists in other ways. So I feel like neutral's a good thing, like a good ranking for him, because he can. I feel like he would be hostile towards the right people. You know, the Mothman is definitely a good guy.
Okay, so this is sort of So this is what I mean is, if you go into the woods, if you go into the mountains of West Virginia, and you encounter the Mothman with the glowing red eyes, should you be afraid or not?
So the a lot of people blame the Mothman for the collapse of the Silver Bridge, which was a bridge in West
All
Virginia.
About bridges.
Yeah.
It's always bridges.
That bridge collapsing led to the death of 46 people. That's also in the movie. So Mothman did do that.
He did do that.
That happened within like a year of the first sighting. So people were like, you know what? It was him. So they placed it on him. It may or may not have been him. But there's been books written about the Mothman. And some people worship the Mothman. And I feel like Mothman has a lot of power, but he doesn't necessarily use it. You know, I feel like he's a good guy. And there's no real origin story for him. Like, there's no lore. Maybe
he showed up one day.
We should come up with some lore for the Mothman.
Some lore. The Mothman. Well, the obvious origin story would be that he metamorphized from.
He got bit by a radioactive moth after going on a school trip to Moth Corp.
Yeah. Yeah, after he was the school's newspaper photographer.
Exactly.
And he was taking pictures of all these moths, but then radioactive moth got on him. And then he woke up and he didn't need his glasses anymore.
Zimmer music, yeah.
Exactly. And his uncle Benjamin, his uncle Benjamin said to him that with great wings you must do absolutely nothing.
No, with great
you
wings
must just stand there.
With great wings you got to do great things. Not Pete.
There you go. Not Pete.
Not Pete.
That's his name, not Pete.
Not Pete. It's Peter, but with a Y.
Okay.
There you go.
Peter.
Piotr.
Yeah. But yeah, well, in the original article, the couples that saw the Mothman, he just sort of stood there, and I imagine he just breathed heavily, just like
Yeah, he's just chilling there. He's like, look at them. But you know,
yeah.
the thing I like the most about him is that
Mhm.
he's from West Virginia. Like that's the
Mm.
perfect state for a cryptid. It's in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere. They still live like it's the 1800s. And there's
Okay.
so much empty space that it's
Mm.
like it is I feel like it is the most ripe state for a
Yeah.
cryptid besides upstate New York. Because
Yeah, I
upstate New
mean,
York is something else.
is something fascinating. Yeah. This Point Pleasant is on the western side of West Virginia. I believe it's actually on the border with Indiana. No, Ohio.
The bridge
Ohio. I think it's on the border with
that
Ohio.
collapsed is actually the bridge that connects Point Pleasant, West Virginia, to Gallipolis, Ohio.
Okay, so yeah, it's on the border with Ohio.
Yeah.
But on the other side of West Virginia, on the eastern side, and also clipping into like Virginia and Maryland, is
Yeah.
this giant rectangle called the National Radio Quiet Zone. And within that zone, there's like laws against certain radio things. And then if you get really close to like these two, there's a telescope and a military like radio watch base, like that they're searching for enemy radio signals. If you get like within a 10-mile radius of these two specific buildings, you can have like nothing, like not even a microwave. Um, so yeah, I imagine West Virginia is a place where you would get a lot of like strange occurrences just because it's like there's no radio here, right? Like you've got this sort of you're not allowed to have this tech so that the radio, the telescope can hear better, essentially, so that the telescope needs quiet, and it can see stuff in deep space. Gosh, I am starting to
You
slur my
got it.
words here.
You got it.
But yeah, so that's I don't have much more to say about the Mothman, but
Mothman's cool, dude.
yeah.
Mothman, I don't know, man. I feel oh yeah, Richard Gere was in it, by the way.
Hmm.
If you
Yeah,
in the
there's
movie.
in our research for this, I saw this. There's a cryptid mod in Minecraft. I mean, there's probably a ton of them because anyone essentially can make a Minecraft mod. And I saw this one video of this like 12-year-old or something doing a like a cryptid mod review, and then he was standing next to the Mothman, and he did F3 or whatever to like get the different perspective, and he's like, "Yeah, we're bros." It was so funny.
Yeah.
Um, but
No,
yeah, so that's
Mothman's
Mothman.
a chill dude, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Anyway, next
Chupacabra.
El Chupacabra. Yes.
So the name literally translates to goat suck or sucker of goats,
Okay.
which is exactly its brand. Oh
Yeah.
boy, if you wanted something that kills all your cattle, look
Uh-huh.
no farther than the Chupacabra. He can kill
Yeah.
10 times as many goats as a single man can, and frankly, half the time.
Wow.
So give it up for the
Very
Chupacabra.
efficient.
Coming
Yeah.
out of Puerto Rico, but also known to frequent Mexico, he's in a lot of Latin American, if that's the correct term, a lot of Latin American culture.
I believe so. Uh-huh.
And he's actually pretty recent, 1995. Like again, we might be running into the same thing where it was like, oh, he was always
Oh, okay.
in myths, you know, but he wasn't really. I would say he wasn't really fleshed out until
Okay.
1995, and in 1995, that was the first sighting of him in Puerto Rico.
Hmm.
Let's see.
Yeah. Yeah, all previous sightings, no validity because it didn't happen in America.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's why it's 1995. Again, just kidding.
Yeah, so the first
yeah.
reported attack was in March 1995. 8 sheep were discovered dead, each with 3 puncture wounds in the chest area, and reportedly completely drained of blood. And then, a few months later in August, that was when this lady reported seeing the creature in this Puerto Rican town where it killed 150 farm animals and pets.
Wow.
Damn. So this thing is definitely hostile. Oh yeah, and the origin myth that we
Hmm.
have up, it was back in the 90s. Puerto Rican farmers noticed that their sheep weren't moving. This was because the chupacabra sucked them to death. Sheep and goats beware.
Okay.
Chupacabra is definitely hostile.
Yeah.
Again, it's an animal. I feel like there's a
Hmm.
scale, and
Of intelligence. Yeah.
Bigfoot's on one end and Chupacabra's on the other end,
Mm.
because unlike Bigfoot, Chupacabra is it goes completely to its animal necessities, which is to
Mm.
feed. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that the chupacabra is like a it's an animal that engages in what's known as vampirism, and you can guess what vampirism is. It's like there are some animals like bats that feed off of the blood, or certain species of bats. Some bats are fruit bats, but certain animals, instead of like killing and then eating their prey, they find it more efficient to just take the blood,
Mm.
because it's like it's quick, it's on the go, it's like a protein shake, right? Like you don't have enough time to prepare a meal, you need something light, so blood.
There you go.
but but yeah, so it's an interesting biological, like evolutionary uh method. I don't know, I'm trying to think, technique, thing that animal does, interesting behavior.
Thing that
uh
it do.
thing that it I'm my grammar is failing today, but yeah, I just find this interesting. It's often called like Mexican Bigfoot, or like the equivalent. It's like the
Mm.
Latin American equivalent of Bigfoot, because it's probably the best known like myth endemic to that area. Like it's the best known for that region of the world. What
Yeah.
do you think?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would definitely say so. A lot of people just think that it comes from Mexico, but it's actually
Hmm.
Puerto Rico. So there you go.
Hmm.
But I feel like if we're talking about why is this a thing, I think it's
Hmm.
pretty simple. It's just that something killed their cattle, you know,
Yeah.
and
Some. Yeah.
someone had an overactive imagination. And also, there's a lot of Mexican hairless dogs that some people
Mm.
mistake. I think that was actually the image I put in for the Zoom
Oh yeah.
meme. It was just a Mexican hairless dog. A lot of
Hmm.
people think that that's the
Interesting.
chupacabra. Like this one
Yeah.
that we
What?
have up
Yeah.
is a little more reptilian, which some
Yeah.
people think the
Definitely.
chupacabra is.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, I find it interesting though, because of the drained blood. Like that's a very specific thing. Only a few animals do that. So like you've got those bats, as I was saying, but like dogs are more like they like the meat. They prefer to just use the whole thing, the
Yeah.
whole prey, not just the blood. So I find it interesting that all the blood was gone specifically, because like they said that they found these bodies just with like a few wounds, but then like otherwise nothing else. Like if it was dogs eating them, not to be too gruesome here, right? But it would be not very good. Not an open casket, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that they were so intact, other than like a few puncture wounds, is just very strange, because that's just like peculiar for animals to do. Because for the most part, an animal attack doesn't really look like anything other than a few, drops of blood strewn about. Because most animals like to be efficient,
Mm-hmm.
most predatory animals, and they just eat everything other than maybe the bones. But then there are other animals that'll come in, they'll pick off, like you've got vultures, and then you get the decomposers. Like there's a place for everything, right? um Nature, any niche that can be found is, according to evolution and Darwinian just thought, right? There's going to be, if there is a niche to exploit, it will be exploited. So it's just fascinating that like it's such a specific thing to do, to have just the blood gone but nothing else. So yeah.
Yeah. But that is the chupacabra.
Hmm. Yeah.
Next up, we got Release the Kraken.
Yep.
You've heard of it. It's been released. It's out, and
It's
it
out.
is hungry. you're not gonna be able
Mm.
to fry this squid, Mr. Calamari, because this thing eats entire ships. So earlier I stated that I don't like big sea creatures. Well, this
Mm.
this is the capital of whatever that fan club is. This is the
Mm-hmm.
president of that fan club because it is like how. Let me get some measurements on this because I know there's an SCP based on the Kraken.
Mm. Interesting.
Here you
Yeah, while
talk
you're
about
doing
it.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, so the Kraken was originally described around 1250 AD, and it was described in this like anonymous book in Norway called, oh gosh, I just realized, Konungsskogssja? I don't know. Sorry,
It's
Norwegians.
obviously pronounced Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated.
All right, but yeah, so it was published in this book where this Norwegian traveler was like, "Yo, I saw this really strange thing in the ocean, and it was this squid." And since then, it's just developed into this sort of monster that'll take your ship to the bottom of the ocean, right, and just destroy everything. Very common in pop culture. Uh, I feel like even the ancient like maps, not ancient, but like 1400s, 1500s, like maps of the world where you got a little sea monster in the middle of the ocean. I feel like that comes from this. People on these long voyages across like huge oceans, they're just worried that there's something lurking deep beneath the waves, right?
Yeah.
And that's the Kraken. And something interesting is that the Kraken is described as a giant squid. And since then, we have found that there actually are giant squids in the ocean. But yeah, we'll come back to that. So what did you have to say?
So the SCP based on the Kraken, or in the same vein as the Kraken,
Mm-hmm.
is SCP-3000,
Mm.
which is the most terrifying SCP, like or
Mm-hmm.
one of them. Um,
I don't know. They get pretty terrifying
yeah,
SCPs
they
in there.
get okay. So there's different levels of terrifying of
Like,
horror.
what about that vending machine that'll produce any liquid you ask? No, I'm just kidding. That's not very
That
scary,
one
but
is that has potential. But I'm
that has
telling you,
potential.
SCP-3000 is a seemingly infinitely long sea creature, like
Infinitely long.
sea leviathan. Like it's
Wow.
hypothesized to be between 600 to 900 kilometers long, which is
What?
370 miles to
That's crazy.
560 miles.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, it's terrifying. It's supposed to be in like the Ganges or something,
Mm.
but it is massive. So the Kraken isn't that big, but
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty big. If you've ever played Subnautica, I would say
Mm-hmm.
that what's the biggest creature in Subnautica?
Oh, I just have to say, I thought of another SCP I really like. It's
What's
that
that?
one it's the alarm clock where if you hit the snooze button, it'll in a 10-foot radius, it'll make 10 minutes pass, but outside only like a millisecond will have passed. So it's like some inventor made a crazy
Pretty
alarm
interesting.
clock, right? Like think about how useful that would be though. Like you're sleeping, right? And then bam, alarm, and you're like, ugh, and you're like, you have to get up. Hit snooze, right? Everything freezes. You get to sleep for 10 more minutes, and you're not a second late. Imagine that. Um, yeah, but yeah, continue.
So the largest thing in Subnautica, at least on the wiki, is the Sea Emperor Leviathan,
Mm-hmm.
which is 160 to 200 meters in length, and so that's pretty big. M2 feet because I'm stupid. That'd be around 500 feet,
Wow.
500 to 600 feet. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Pretty big. I would say that that's pretty accurate for the Kraken,
Okay.
because and like we were saying earlier, it's the fact that there's so much water and we don't know a
Mm.
lot about it, that especially in the 13th century they would have been thinking that you know they understand even less
Mm-hmm.
than we do now, and we understand basically nothing right
Hmm.
now. So the idea that something massive is out there, especially when they have other stuff, like they were
Yeah.
believing in Norse myths at this point in time. They were believing in stuff that was the size of the planet, size of the universe, creatures that big. So imagining a creature 500 to 600 feet in length in the ocean, where there's like seemingly an infinite amount of space for things to grow. It's not too far fetched, and
Yeah.
they don't have black boxes or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So if a
Oh
ship
yeah.
if a ship goes down,
Yeah, that's true.
there's like an 80% chance they don't know what happened to the
Yeah.
ship. But
Well, so this is an
yeah.
interesting thing is that there are giant squids. So scientists noticed that these whales, I think the sperm whales, they were like, why these whales are like scarred, like all across their body. They have like crazy scars. Why is this happening? People were like, because it was also like,
Kraken.
what kind of creature could go toe to toe with a whale, right? And so eventually they theorized, oh, it's got to be a giant squid. And then they've actually found giant squid in the deep ocean. They actually have like pictures of them. They've found them, they've studied them, and so there are confirmed, it is canon, there are giant squids, right? And so the question becomes, is the Kraken, the reports of the Kraken, was this just an embellished account of someone who actually saw this elusive giant squid? What do you think? I think it's possible.
I think that if you look at creatures, like if you look at animals in general, there's always that one guy, and by that I mean if you look at the largest crocodiles ever. I don't know what
Yeah.
the average size of a crocodile. If you
I
look
think
at
it's like 10 feet. I don't know.
it's 14 to 17 feet.
Okay.
For the
Wow.
saltwater.
That's worse.
Yeah. American
I'm in
crocodiles
Florida,
are
so
less.
I'm like,
But
oh,
yeah,
okay,
so
okay. So maybe it is 10 feet for Florida.
no, I'm sorry, but
No.
we'll call it 15 feet.
Okay.
Usually they're 15 feet. That's the average.
Okay.
And then you get like the top 10 largest ones, and then you get one that's like 20 feet, 21 feet, 22 feet, 23 feet, going all the way up until like the top two, and then the top one is like the most insane crocodile you've ever seen. It's like 40 feet, largest crocodile.
I'm not sure it was 40 feet, but
dude, it's massive. I bet you
no
it's
way.
massive. Yeah, it's like around 20-ish feet. Low.
Okay.
Giant crocodile. Oh, that's the size, so that's the weight as well.
Oh, okay.
But animals can get big. If you give them enough space, they can get big. Also, like, think about evolution-wise. Things used to be way bigger, because there was more oxygen in the atmosphere, right?
Yep.
So, how like dragonflies used to be like what, a meter long, and now they're like a couple of inches long.
All the bugs. I am very grateful for that because I hate bugs, and they used to be much worse. Much worse.
I think it's a mix. It's definitely a mix because the idea that there's a massive sea creature is just inside human nature.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a mix between that and they saw a giant squid that was like a record-breaking squid. Like, and even if it was like a normal sized one, that would still be pretty jarring.
Yeah, exactly.
If it was your first time,
first
humans seeing a massive squid.
Because
giant squids look so cursed.
Because the massive squids too, they're also very elusive. I mean, it took years for modern scientists to hunt them down. They usually stick to like deep, deep parts of the ocean. So it's possible that like by fluke, one of them strayed to the surface, and that would be a lasting legend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So.
Or imagine this. It didn't even have to be the whole thing. It could have just been one tentacle, and they were like, "Oh, this is connected to something bigger."
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Oof. Yeah, that's crazy.
That'd be terrifying.
That would be terrifying.
Oh, hold on. I gotta see if this is what I'm thinking of. Yeah, I hate this thing. I don't like this thing. The big fin squid. Here, I'll throw an image in. If you Google big fin squid,
Yeah, let's see.
It's
Let's see.
so cursed here.
Oh no.
If it could load in. Face. That's a big fin squid. How is that an animal?
Oh no.
How is that an
Yeah.
animal, dude? It's walking. It walks.
Oh,
What is that?
I don't
man?
like it. I don't like it.
And it just
Yeah.
stands on the bottom of the ocean waiting for people to come by. It looks like it's gonna sell you car insurance.
It really
But,
does.
Jesus Christ. Like, how is that even allowed? You know?
It's like, hello, sir. Could I interest you in?
But anyways.
Yeah.
Moving off of the big fin squid, which
Yeah.
is a lot smaller than the Kraken. SCP-3000, you gotta check it out. It's so
All right.
cursed. But anyways, Yeti.
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 Yeah. So the Yeti is like, it's like the ice type variant of the Bigfoot, of the Sasquatch. That's what I feel like it is. I've always had those two in my mind as like similar things. This guy's the ice version of it. So yeah, he comes from the Himalayan mountains of all places, the highest mountains in the world. Super cold, super high altitude. People go up there trying to get to the top and they die all the time. Could it be that they are dying from, being ill prepared and from the cold and the lack of oxygen? Maybe. Or maybe they're dying because there is a giant creature called the Yeti and it kills them. So, yeah.
Both are plausible.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like we have here, you can see this with mythical creatures as well, like dragons. If you look at Eastern dragons versus Western dragons, Eastern dragons are actually kind of chill. Like, they're beings of immense power, but they don't really attack humans all that much.
Yeah.
And then you go over to Western dragons, and they're literally just destructive and breathe fire and all that.
Exactly.
But
yeah, the Eastern dragons are just like happy flying snakes that'll, give you good fortune or bad fortune.
We have Daikaiju
we got
Productions in chat.
Yeah, Daikaiju Productions. I was shopping for a new car. Which one's me?
That's the old jingle. I think he's talking about that in relation to the big fin squid.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then we have Stop It Says Hello, Sinner.
That's how I'm going to start greeting my teachers on
Yeah.
Zoom. I'm always the first person to go into a Zoom call, so I'll be like, hello, sinner, and then mute
hello, sinner.
Refuse to turn my camera on so that I always have the element of surprise.
Wow. Imagine. How do you respond to that? And then
Little
imagine
do they know, as they ask me to turn on my camera, I am in their background of their
camera. That's the best. If someone could, if someone had the ability of teleportation right now to just, if they had their camera off and then it's like, you need to turn your camera on, and then you're just standing behind them. It reminds me of the "Hey Vsauce, Michael here" meme.
Yeah.
I love that. But
hey Vsauce, Michael here. What if you were defenseless?
Exactly. But yeah, so the Yeti. So yeah, you were saying, so from ancient Buddhist beliefs, he was a symbol of the hunt.
Symbol of the hunt, because they didn't worship him, but they thought he was like out there because he served as a spiritual symbol. The way that Buddhism kind of works. I've been looking at it recently, actually. I'm having to study it a fair amount.
Oh, that's cool.
But the way it works is that they don't really worship any one thing besides Buddha. And the way that they do that is by following his teachings, basically. So they just see him as one big teacher. So they're not as... they meditate a lot and stuff, the Buddhists do, but it's not like the levels of worship that we're used to thinking about in... Christianity or even other
it's not as theistic, I guess you could say.
It's more philosophical. So they saw this guy as maybe some people probably didn't even think that he was real. They just thought that he was a good symbol. Like we think of the Grim Reaper as a symbol of death. I feel like they saw him as kind of the Grim Reaper of the hunt.
Interesting.
But then people took this. Like they go over to like the Chinese Nepalese monasteries, and they hear
Hmm.
these guys, and they're like, yes, there is an 8 feet tall mountain man that serves as the spirit of the hunt. And Steven Spielberg's like, oh boy,
Oh
we're
boy.
gonna turn this one into a right scary thing. So then the
Uh-huh.
Western version of the Yeti is called the Abominable Snowman,
Mm.
which is not good. Definitely.
It is very
Yeah, that's
abominable.
why we kind of
Yeah.
put it as neutral, because the Yeti here
Hmm.
is passive. I guess like passive. It still has to hunt and stuff, but the Western one would definitely be hostile, because that's
Okay.
when you start
Yeah.
getting into stuff where it just attacks you without reason. So it is
Net
neutral.
neutral.
Net neutral.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, this is an interesting one. In terms of like, could it exist? It's an interesting one because um, I don't think it could, up in a mountain. Just if you think of it like ecologically, um, there's a difficulty of sustaining such a creature, especially in like a frigid mountain environment,
Yeah.
like tiny shrubs, right? Tiny herbivores, and therefore tiny carnivores. Like you have very poor ecosystems up in the mountains, and they aren't very biologically diverse, and you don't end up with like large creatures like what the Yeti could be. So the Yeti would probably starve just because there's not enough stuff up in a mountain. You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
support a creature like that. Um, but I think it's just very interesting of the possibility of a Yeti attack is just sort of symbolizes like going up into the mountains. I feel like the Yeti has a bit of an aspect of this, but the next one especially is this sort of the symbolism of like the cold. I do not like it. I like it, but I do not like it. I'm like, it's like appreciating a good horror movie. I'm like, that's a good horror movie. The cold is like a good aspect. And I'm here in Florida now. I'm like, I'm done with the cold, right?
He's far
I
removed.
I have lost my ability to handle cold. The last time I was up in Connecticut, like a few weeks ago, or maybe like a month ago, I forget
Yeah.
exactly, but I think a few weeks ago, it was like fall-ish, but not really. I mean, it was September. It was late September, and at times during my trip, I was like, it's a bit chilly here, which is strange because when I lived there, I never thought it was cold until like November, right? So
Yeah.
I have lost my cold tolerance.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
We have a
but
low of
I,
50
yeah,
degrees today, if you were wondering.
oof, wow,
But yeah, no,
yeah,
it's weird. It's weird
yeah,
because if I, like, say I move to Florida in like my adult
hmm
life, or I move to Georgia or somewhere, and I have a family there, my kids will grow up never seeing. I apologize for my mom.
oh no problem.
I my kids will grow up never having seen snow. You know.
Mm,
And
yeah,
especially if I marry a girl from Georgia or from Florida,
hmm
they'll all have that accent. They won't sound like me, so I'll sound
yeah,
weird. And they'll be like,
you'll be
where
the
are you
weird one.
from? Where are you from, Dad? Where'd you come from, Dad? Why don't you sound like us, Dad?" And I'll be like, "I come from a land of ice, boy."
A land
Yeah.
of ice. Uh,
But
yeah, land to the
anyways,
north. Yeah,
so
that's
now we
funny.
move into
Yeah, yes.
Max's
Okay, here we go.
worst nightmare, the Wendigo.
Yes, the Wendigo.
The
So the
Wendigo.
Wendigo, just that name, Wendigo.
What
So
is it? What
okay,
is it? I want to find the translation. Talk about it. I want to find the
okay.
translation.
So the Wendigo comes from Nova Scotia, the Great Lakes region, kind of like the eastern border between the U.S. and Canada, that sort of area of space. So the Northeast and the Midwest, places that are very cold, very snowy in the winter, especially long winter months, long winter nights, stuff like that. And so this myth comes from the pre-Columbian era, so anything before 1492, right? It comes from before, because it comes from Native American cultures. So it comes from before when people came over from Europe. So it's part of Algonquin folklore, which is a tribe that lives up around the Great Lakes region. And it's basically a legend about humans that are forced to resort to cannibalism in like the winter, right? So think of like the Donner Party. This is later, but the Donner Party, they were, I think, going on the Oregon Trail. They were trying to get to the west. They were a big group of people, and they got stuck in a snowy like mountain pass, and then they resorted to cannibalism as like people died and they ran out of food, and they were like, well, if they're already dead, then I guess there's no harm in, right? But then some of them were like, oh, this is the perfect chance to start just killing people. So the Wendigo symbolizes like greed and, like just sort of corruptibility, right? It's like cannibalism is, gross practice.
And it also looks terrifying. Like
looks terrifying
this is
too.
a transcript from a native author who is describing the Wendigo in his book.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. The Wendigo is gaunt to the point of emaciation, its desiccated skin pulled tightly over its bones. With its bones pushing out over its skin, its complexion the ash gray of death, and its eyes pushed back deep into the sockets, the Wendigo looked like a gaunt skeleton recently disinterred from the grave. What lips it had were tattered and bloody, unclean and suffering from the suppurations of the flesh. The Wendigo gave off a strange and eerie odor of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption.
Oof. So yeah, so that's really it's death and corruption. Creature. And it's like it has a lot of just themes of like winter and cold and ice, as I was just saying before. So you've got, I think it's got like antlers and stuff. Like it's like a
some of them do.
The deer skull or like an elk skull.
The name Wendigo, also known as Wendigo, has been translated. It's thought that it might come from the word for owl, which is something similar.
Interesting.
But that's in relation to a lot of myths say that it has the eyes of an owl. So
okay.
It can see wherever you are at night.
Oh boy. That's worse. Yeah, but it's just like also the whole emaciation, like it's starving and stuff like that.
Yeah, that definitely plays into it. It comes from the Algonquian term Wintiqua, which means owl.
Yeah, it's just so interesting because if you imagine these native cultures, they probably like winter was not a good time because the hunting gets worse. You can't really do any agriculture, right? So you need to make sure you have enough food stored up for winter once the winter months come in. And so the sort of starvation, emaciation is like represented here. The desperation, the like greed, cannibalism, all that like bad stuff. Anything that you can possibly think of that's related to just like badness in the winter. Is in the Wendigo. It's like it's so eerie. So but yeah.
I might tell you. Actually, no, I'm not going to tell you anything. But I just thought of something that I'm going to make you, Max, and I'll show it.
He's going to make me something.
Oh
no.
I'm not. It's not going to be today. But I just.
Oh no, he's going to make me something.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm waiting with suspenseful terror. That's what I'll say.
Get excited.
But yeah, look at that. You got that full moon reflecting off the snow. Just everything here. The whole image here is very, like, I don't know. It appeals to me and scares me at the same time. I just think it's good narrative, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, so that's what I would say. So that was the last of the classic cryptids. So
now we're on the Neo-Cryptids.
Yeah, let's move on. Yeah, we got the Neo-Cryptids. So Neo means new. That's what the prefix Neo means. So it's like modern, new cryptids. So the Neo-Cryptids they're not as old. They aren't as ancient of legends. And a lot of them are, well, we only have three. Oh wait, we have four. We have four here. The first two are like they're actually internet things. The next one is book from the 1920s, And so yeah, so let's hop right into it.
Yeah.
So first, we got the Slender Man. So the Slender Man.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
all right. Slendy boy. I remember him being big, just off the top of my head. I remember him being big in 2014, kind of around the same time as Five Nights at Freddy's, because that's when our generation, or whatever you want to call our generation, we're really in between two generations.
Really like a piece of a piece
yeah,
of the
honestly.
generations.
So
the people from like 2002 to 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that squad, we should come up with a name for people like those.
The early Gen Zers, that's what I would say.
Yeah, or the late millennials, if we want to tie ourselves
I would say,
to them.
I would say early Gen Z is better for PR. I'm just kidding. No, but I've seen people that are in like college refer to themselves as Gen Z, so I'm pretty sure that we're Gen Z.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely.
But yeah.
But Slender Man was big in all those. As you can see, he was created on June 10th, 2009. He was previously known as the Man of Average Build around 2009.
Okay.
And then he went on a diet, which is mainly children. That's a joke. Before being Slender
You wrote this section.
Yeah, he was not.
Yeah, you can see it's funny. It's funny since we collaborate on these slides and often we divide and conquer. I feel like it must be funny from the audience's perspective to see. So which parts did Sebastian make and which parts did Max make? I think they have two very distinct, like, what would you say, auras. Got two different auras about them. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, so Slender Man, again, there's no real origin for him in the first story, which is the June 10th, 2009 story. They didn't give an origin. He was just a creature that was there. And then I feel like his biggest rise to popularity was the rise of creepypasta as a whole.
Yeah.
And then secondly,
he's like the original creepypasta. When I think creepypasta, I think Slender Man. So definitely. I guess we could explain what creepypasta is, like the phenomenon. It's just sort of like internet horror stories that people tell. And they're often written as if like they are real. So it's sort of like internet campfire stories. So like they're written as things that, like they're written as, oh, this is something that happened, right? Explicitly. But implicitly, you're supposed to know this is just a horror story, right? So I feel like it's interesting.
Dude, it's still going.
Phenomenon.
The creepypasta website is still going. People have posted stories today.
Yeah.
It has been
people
going
like horror.
Strong. Yeah,
there's quite a few YouTube channels where people do creepypasta readings, where they get some spooky music, they get a spooky like stock footage, and they still do this, and they just read like, so the blah 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 happened, da 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 da. And so I like those channels.
Yeah, I love the memes that poke fun at the titles of some creepypastas.
Oh yeah,
those are so funny.
Yeah, never try this at 3 a.m. Yeah. I like those channels though. Sometimes when I'm like, I guess, doing things where like it's sort of like a podcast, to be honest. That's what the appeal is. It's like a horror podcast, some of those channels. So sometimes when I'm doing some work, every once in a while I'll be like, yeah, let me listen to those creepypasta readings. But yeah.
So the creepypasta had its peak audience in 2010 when it was actually covered by the New York Times. The reason why my mind went to 2014 was because that's when the stabbing happened, the Slender Man stabbing.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
I remember.
So that was a bunch of girls went out into the woods, I think, and they were like 12, you know, and they wanted to prove that Slender Man was real. So they lured this girl, their best friend, and they just stabbed her 19 times to try and prove that she survived. But yeah, it's crazy. That's a crazy story. I hardly believe it myself, but yeah, that's something that happened. Yeah. They were all 12, like two 12-year-old girls just took another 12-year-old girl out, stabbed her 19 times to try and get Slenderman. That's obviously like that isn't at Slenderman. That's just they clearly have some kind of mental. Oh, they're from Wisconsin. That explains it. They're from Wisconsin. So, anyways,
Okay. I think we've got I think by the end of this live stream, we're gonna offend every U.S. state.
Yes.
That should be our goal. Offend every U.S. state.
Except West Virginia. West Virginia's been a... Oh, actually, no. I said they still live in the 1800s. Fuck you, West Virginia. Oh,
We've offended Ohio.
Yeah.
Now Wisconsin, West Virginia, New Jersey. Who else?
Connecticut.
I mean, you've been talking about upstate New York.
Yeah, upstate New York.
But I would say that New York City people probably agree with your assessment.
Dude, upstate New York.
There's a lot of interstate conflict.
It feels like it's a piece taken from somewhere else, you know. Like, and you could read that as in, oh, I think it's like a piece of like, you know, like Outer Banks, Britain, you know, like that population. Or you could go even farther, and be like, oh, it's like the abandoned section of Russia, you know, stuff like that. I mean,
Siberia.
Yeah, it's like
Oi, Maya Khan.
Yeah, I mean that it's a piece from a separate plane of existence that was lazily stitched on to this realm that we all collectively share. We have Daikaiju Productions.
Oh, yeah, let's see what Daikaiju says. He says 27 stab wounds.
27 stab wounds. It's from Detroit Become Human.
Oh, okay.
I love that. I love that game.
But yeah, here's a question I have to ask. What latitude is the boundary between upstate New York and just normal New York?
Pull up the maps.
Yeah, what's your line? I feel like this is New England's equivalent of the northerner southerner question in Great Britain. So, yeah, let's see what you have to say here.
All right. Do they not give you lines of latitude in Google Maps?
No, they do not, unfortunately.
Okay.
But if you click on a random place, it'll give you
that's exactly what I'm going to do. All right, so New York City is obviously the south.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got here. I'm going to call it...
Yeah, let's see. Where's the boundary between
I'm
upstate...
calling it everywhere north of Albany.
Everywhere north of Albany. Let me see that.
It's kind of... Yeah, okay, so if you want to say north, just straight up north, I would say it's pretty much anywhere past, like, maybe Syracuse. But, the left side of...
Yeah, it's interesting.
Syracuse
Upstate New York is also, like, West State New York. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's not exactly a north-south thing. It's sort of like... Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Albany just doesn't want me.
I would say the boundary is actually, I would say the best boundary would be the 42nd parallel.
42nd parallel.
So the 42nd parallel is the straight line between New York and Pennsylvania. So anything below that is downstate. Anything above is upstate. And that's good because it means that the entire West is still part of the upstate New York, because the shape of New York, it sort of dips down. Like you've got this little tip, this little triangular section that dips down. And so you don't go too far west. So I would say the 42nd parallel is the boundary between upstate and normal New York. We've done it. We've classified upstate New York. So back to Slender Man.
Yeah, back to Slender Man, he's wherever he wants to be. He's in the woods. The woods are the most common place for creepy things.
Of course, since he started as an internet phenomenon, there's no location exactly for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he was in the game, the Slenderman games, which Markiplier played. He was responsible for those games being, known.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think he just speaks to we couldn't have led Neo-Cryptids off with anyone else other than Slenderman.
I think he is famous. Yeah, he is the Bigfoot of the internet horror genre.
Yeah.
I guess that's like everyone, if you only know one Neo-Cryptid, it's Slender Man. You know what I mean? Like, if you only know one creepypasta, it's Slender Man. So yeah.
Definitely.
So yeah.
Next up.
Next, we got, this is like a more recent example. Like, it's been very popular recently. Is Siren Head.
I have a video on it if you want to check it out.
Yeah. 128 seconds. Go visit his channel. He has a video about Siren Head. So I said region Canada, and it's because the Siren Head, this specific piece of art, was made by a Canadian artist named Trevor Henderson in 2018, so pretty recently, just 2 years ago, August 18th. And so, so I said it was Canada because you can see on the left, there's some like pine and needles. So it's a pine tree. Of course, there are also pine trees in the United States, but you know what? He's from Canada, so I wrote Canada, right? So yeah. Oh, we've been sort of ignoring the hostility ratings for the last few, but I think it was sort of implied. They're all hostile. Yeah. You know, since the Wendigo was hostile. It eats you because it's a cannibal. Slender Man was hostile. What does it do? It just
it steals children is the
main
thing.
Yeah. What does it do with them afterward? That's the question.
It just takes them.
Okay, just takes them into the pocket dimension.
If you want to go into deep lore,
into the lore,
yeah, there is a chance that he'll take a child and make it his quote unquote proxy, which is something that you basically become a servant of Slenderman. The girls that stabbed the 12-year-old stabbing believe that they were proxies of Slenderman, which is why they kind of stabbed him.
Interesting.
19
yeah.
times.
So the Siren Head is also hostile. I've read some stories about it. It uses the sirens it has sirens for heads. I mean, it's a pretty simple name, self-explanatory. And so it can emit noises. And so it's sort of like a predatory mimicry thing. So it'll try to lure in humans by playing like some nice music or something. And then people will be like, oh, where's that nice music coming from? And then they'll get eaten by the Siren Head. So yeah, the Siren Head is also a very like emaciated thing, very tall and like very skinny. So it's pretty much Yui Films, Siren Head. But yeah, so the Siren
Legend.
is yeah, the Siren Head, it's pretty new as a creepypasta. And there's a game, I think there's a Siren Head game.
Yeah, there's a couple actually.
Yeah, there's a few Siren Head games. And so yeah, it's just sort of this thing. I find it pretty interesting because it's like there are a lot of predators in nature that like pretend to, like, they use camouflage or something, or they try to be something appealing. Like a pitcher plant, for example, probably one of the lamest examples I could think of in terms of this phenomenon, but I could not for the life of me think of anything else. But the pitcher plant looks like, you know, an appetizing plants for bugs, but then it eats the bugs. So that's sort of like what the Siren Head does. But of course, the progress of, you know, human development is outpacing evolution by like a factor of 1,000. We're developing so fast that we can't even evolve to the changes, and stuff like the internet is producing negative effects for our minds in some areas, although it's having benefits in other areas. But yeah, so the Siren Head is just fascinating because it's like, what if evolution worked faster and created a creature that would mimic, you know, human inventions like a predator would in nature? And so I just find it fascinating. Also, you have that wonderful, like, haunted nuclear siren aesthetic. That's another good aspect of it, because the nuclear siren, for some reason, is so scary to people.
It's so scary, dude.
It's such a cursed sound. I believe that it's partly the connotation with nuclear bombs themselves, but I think the siren was chosen specifically because it already invokes that sort of reaction in humans. You know, I think that's evolutionary psychology. I think that sort of sound is predisposed to make people just frightened, right?
It's just haunting,
and so,
man.
Yeah, it's haunting. And so I feel like adding the nuke nuclear element has sort of layered on because we are afraid of nuclear bombs naturally. But I think it's just a naturally scary sound. I think if you played this sound to a human 70,000 years ago, they would freak out, even though they have no conception of what a nuclear bomb is. So I feel like that it's often that the Siren Head plays nuclear bomb sounds, maybe to draw people out of their houses or something like that, like to make people run frantically. So it's fascinating. Yeah, but you can also play like you also have a fun sort of aesthetic of the like haunted old timey music. So like, you know what I mean? That's another one.
Yeah.
Like the haunted hotel, haunted old timey like music from say the 30s and 40s. Like you've got that music, but it's all warped and stuff like that. So the Siren Head is just a very interesting creature and pretty relevant just because it's like a modern, more recent thing, very popular recently.
Do you know?
But yeah, the Siren Head is just yeah. I'll let you go in 1 second.
Yeah.
But the Siren Head, I would say, is just the most recent manifestation of just all the creepypastas. So Slender Man was the first creepypasta, and Siren Head is one of the more recent creepypastas. But there have been a ton in between. So yeah, go ahead.
Do you know what achromophobia is?
Fear of color or light or something like that.
Well, that would be chromophobia.
Oh, fear of the lack of color or light.
Lack of color. I just invented this. I used to not. I used to hate black and white photos because that was when I was on or looking at the dark and deep web a lot, and all that stuff is in like black and white for no reason. So there was like a stretch of time for like a year where I like could barely look at, like, if it was just like a standard black and white photo of like JFK or something, then like I wouldn't really care. But if it was just like a random black and white photo of like a field, I couldn't deal with it. Of like a city, you know, I couldn't deal with it.
That's interesting. Oh, I just learned of this really interesting thing recently.
What's up?
I kind of want to show it to you. It's a really interesting photo. It's called the daguerreotype. Daguerreotype. Have you heard of it?
I've not.
It was like the first pictures were daguerreotypes. So this is the first daguerreotype. Like pictures you see of people from like the 1800s and stuff. So I'm putting it in.
Yeah, you're putting it in.
There we go. This is the first one. So look at that. What do you think about that picture?
All right, let's see. Where'd you put it? Oh no.
Siren. You don't like that picture?
I've pretty much gotten over.
You've gotten over it, but you know, would this frighten you?
I would have died if I had seen that.
Yeah, this is actually a really interesting photo because this is actually a 10-minute exposure. So he just had that camera there for 10 minutes. So all the people, there were actually a ton of people walking past, but they just, you know, vanished because the exposure was too long, except for one guy who was getting his shoes shined. So he was there long enough to be captured by the daguerreotype. But yeah, now pictures, you know, 1 second exposure, but basically daguerre, there were light sensitive plates, right? And there were cameras, but a camera before the daguerreotype required essentially like 8 hours of exposure to get an image. So it's pretty much the same as the old-timey like portrait making, right? If you had to sit down for a portrait, just as long to sit down for a photo. So the photo wasn't much of a development, right? But then Daguerre, he made this super sensitive photo lens by accident because he spilled mercury in his cupboard, and the mercury vapor like treated one of his like photo plates to make them even more sensitive to light. So it went from an 8-hour exposure requirement to a 10-minute exposure requirement, which was quite the development. But yeah, so you made me think of that because I learned about the daguerreotype pretty recently. But yeah, so that's it for Siren Head. Shall we go to the next slide?
We shall. Cthulhu!
Nice. Yeah, Cthulhu.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'll let you take it away.
All right, thank you. Cthulhu is created by the very progressive author known as H.P. Lovecraft.
Hmm.
He was not a progressive author.
He was
Progressive
the
in maybe subject material because he was a pioneer of
yeah,
cosmic horror, I would say.
yeah.
Um, but basically, Cthulhu is what he's most known for. Cthulhu takes place in H.P. Lovecraft's mythos, sometimes just called the Cthulhu mythos,
Hmm.
um, which basically contains all these crazy powerful creatures, that are like basically gods. You could see them as. In fact, one of them is responsible for like the entire universe, so they are
Hmm.
gods in
Oh
that
yeah,
fashion.
Azathoth.
Azathoth, yeah, whose real name we can't ever say, or else he'll wake up,
Oh,
and
true.
the dream will end. The entire universe is supposed to just be his dream, and he's
What if it's
asleep.
something like Jim? It's just like a very basic standard name.
Yeah. Or it's like a terrible name that no one names their kids anymore,
Mm.
just because it's such a terrible name,
Yeah.
like Brendan or something like that. But anyways, um, Cthulhu is around 1 billion years old. His dad's and mom's name is Nug.
Uh-huh.
Cthulhu is prophesized to one day rise and destroy the Earth. He's actually, well, he's an alien, because he comes
Mm.
from some
Yeah.
other planet, somewhere else in the universe. But he's supposed to be under the South Pacific Sea, I think, like off the coast of South America, around there.
Yep. Oh,
Um,
that's the one. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder, does H.P. Lovecraft say that that is why that area has like the worst seafaring? Like all the
I
early
could definitely see
explorers,
that, yeah.
when they went through that channel, it was like cursed. A ton of them would die and stuff because it was basically the one inlet between the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. So there were crazy currents there, sort of like in the Mediterranean, the Gibraltar Strait.
Yeah.
Hard word to say. Lots of crazy currents there. You can be swept out to sea, but yeah. So that's fascinating if he's between South America and Antarctica, because that's a thin area.
Yeah, but Cthulhu
But
is
yeah,
one of the greatest examples of existentialism, I guess,
yeah,
because he's just supposed to be kind of
nihilism.
an ultimate creature that will just one day
Yeah,
destroy.
yeah. He's supposed to rise when the world's population hits 8 billion,
Hmm.
and we are at around 7.7 billion, I believe. So
Yeah.
it's coming soon. Get ready. Um, but yeah, so Cthulhu is just interesting. Definitely hostile, but
Definitely.
honestly, I wouldn't even say like hostile. It's more that like he sees humans as we see ants, right? He just doesn't even care about humans, you know?
Hmm.
So it's like well, I guess he does want to, isn't it like he's going to enslave humanity or something? So I guess he is hostile.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but
Some
also
people say it's to enslave. Some people say that he's just gonna destroy the universe that way.
uh-huh. Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, cuz a lot of the like a lot of cosmic horror is supposed to be that not only are there these beings so much powerful, so much more powerful than us, it's that they're so much more powerful that they don't even care. They don't even think about us. You know, we're just dust, you know? Like they're just like, yeah, whatever. So, I mean, you wouldn't think twice before like stepping on an ant. I mean, you wouldn't intentionally do it most of the time, but like you wouldn't really care, you know? You're just going about your day. Like when we cut down the rainforest, you know, when we cut down forests to like build farms, right? To build houses and developments and stuff, we don't really think about the native wildlife there, not out of hostility, just because we don't really care, essentially.
Yeah.
Although some people care now, and people at least care a little now, but it's more. And so when I say we, I mean we as in humanity. I definitely care. I mean a little bit. Um, it's not my main priority, I guess, is what I'm saying. I'm not like that's not my thing to be an environmentalist, but I would definitely, I guess, agree with them. But yeah, so Cthulhu is sort of like that to humans, which is just fascinating. That it's like his goals, right? Like if you want to build an apartment complex, you're not gonna worry about if there's like a few beetles or cockroaches that inhabit that land because you're just like, nah, we're building an apartment complex, right? And so I feel like that's Cthulhu. He's like, I don't care if there are these humans here. I need to build Like, I need to do my thing, right? So he's just like that. But yeah. So that's Cthulhu.
Yeah, big guy. Stop it. You know him. We all know him. He is one of the most powerful beings in the known galaxy. Not a lot is known about him. We made first contact with him on August 16th, 2020.
What episode was that?
That was the Newton stream.
No, that wasn't first contact. That was just the first contact this season, or season 4. But he was there before.
Oh, what season did he start in?
I forget. I bet he could tell us.
I bet he was there. Yeah, earlier.
He was there earlier.
Yeah. But anyways.
Because, yeah.
He is. There's a lot of theories going out about him.
No, remember the H? What episode was that when he commented H? That was the first contact.
I thought
he just commented H and left. That wasn't the.
That wasn't Newton. That was. Was that stellar classification? No, that was.
No, it wasn't season 4. It was like season 3 or something.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me look at the episode.
Maybe even season 2. I forget. But yeah, Stop It. I guess you could say Stop It is part of the. He's part of the Max Craftian mythos, if we're right. He's part of the Gravity Max live stream mythos. My channel used to be called Max Craft. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I changed that. Those were the dark. Yeah. That was when I was going to do gaming videos, but then my computer could only handle like 2 frames per second. Yeah. It was more the recording software. I don't know what was wrong with it. It wouldn't record more than 2 frames a second.
Stop It says that he's always been here.
He's always been here. Predictable response from Stop It. I've always been there. But yeah, so Stop It. Lord of Cessation. He has the ability to manipulate and stop time. I mean,
and he's shape-shifting because in the last one he confirmed that he was the bird that Nikola Tesla fell in love with.
Yeah,
he's
the pigeon.
Also influenced various elections and been close to members of very high power and political standpoints. So his hostility, we don't know. You know, he hasn't done us any. He hasn't done anything hostile yet, right? Yeah.
Unless you could see the seduction of Nikola Tesla as a hostile action. But he rolled for what was it? Roll for what is it? You know, when you try to seduce the dragon in Dungeons and Dragons, roll for blank. What is it? Charisma. Yeah, roll for charisma. He rolled a nat 20 on that one. I think he always gets nat 20s because what he does, right, is he pauses time. Oh, Daikaiju Production says, "Do you think he is the cosmic Joker?" I don't know. That's a possibility.
Is that the Joker that gets the? That's not the Joker from DC Comics, is it? Cosmic Joker. Jacob, what cosmic Joker are you talking about? Here, that'll come in.
Yeah, that'll come in 30 seconds. Yeah. But yeah, but what I was saying is he can roll the dice and then pause time and then just keep rolling until he gets, you know, good stuff. Wait, Daikaiju Production says, "What do you mean? He threatened to use your house as barracks. He's hostile." I don't remember that. No, wait, what episode was that?
That was when we were talking about the Quartering Act, or
that's true.
Third Amendment.
He was gonna violate our Third Amendment rights. I don't think that's too concerning.
It is technically.
When has anyone? I think that's a new sentence. They're violating my Third Amendment right. No one has ever said that. You know what I mean?
It's like, yeah, you just.
It's always you're violating my First Amendment, Second, Fourth, Fifth. I mean, no one. Third Amendment is snubbed. Third Amendment is unfortunately. I feel bad for the Third Amendment. It's not as popular, you know.
Yeah.
But not as well known. But
some new people in chat.
We got some new people in chat.
ASMR. Look at that.
Oh, it says, "Hi, Gravity Max and Sebastian. I'm watching you guys live from Safety Harbor, Florida, near Tampa. Nice. Enjoying this week's episode, as I do all of them. Stop It says, that was not a threat." Search Daikaiju Production says search the Urban Dictionary definition. Here, let me copy paste. Wait, of hostile? The definition of hostile? I don't know what they're talking about.
Thank you, Bedtime
Stop It
Stories
says,
ASMR.
Stop It says that was a promise, that was not a threat. That was a promise. Okay, stop it. We'll see. Daikaiju says, yeah, a term attributed to author Charles Fort, referring to a higher power who is responsible for twists of fate and acts upon his victims at the most opportune or inopportune times. A persona of karma, bringing down the undeserving and raising up the unfortunate and deserving. So that's the Joker, the cosmic Joker. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that makes sense for Stop It. Yeah, Stop It, legendary being.
Yeah, I think that definition could definitely work.
Hey, Stop It, can you go back in time and tell me to invest in Bitcoin? Anyway.
No, imagine.
Yeah.
The first time you start the Gravity Max live stream, but it doesn't have me there. So he goes back in time and he's like, yo, you should text Sebastian, ask him to do the Gravity Max live stream.
Maybe, well, I don't remember that. So I think he must have subliminally influenced me into doing it. Yeah. Anyways,
that is the power of
fascinating.
Stop It.
That is the power of
Stop It. Closes out our
Neo-Cryptids.
Yeah. So now we move on to the Archeo-Cryptids.
Yeah.
These are
Archeo-Cryptids.
This is largely just myth and largely Greek myth.
Yeah.
And I think all of them are.
Yeah, it's the giants.
They're Greek giants, definitely.
But they're just all.
Yeah.
If you say they're all, it varies.
They are all.
Whatever. But yeah.
These are the cryptids that the people a long time ago believed in. You know?
Yep.
So whether they were for religious purposes, whether it was an overactive imagination, or it was a cautionary tale telling people, hey, you know, you shouldn't do you should stay away from B.
Don't violate Xenia.
Exactly. If you violate Xenia, it's over.
It's over for you.
Let's go right into it. So we start with probably the most famous of these, which is the Cyclops.
Yep, the Cyclops. So the Cyclops are described in the Odyssey, which was the Odyssey. We talk about it a lot because a lot of these are from the Odyssey. The Odyssey is basically Greek myths were passed down like through generations by just oral storytelling. And then this dude Homer was like, let me just write this all down. And then he did. And now we have the Odyssey and the Iliad. But yeah, so the Cyclops in the Odyssey inhabit this island. And that island is Sicily. It's supposed to be Sicily. And so they are hostile, the Cyclops, because when Odysseus, when he lands in Sicily, the first thing this Cyclops Polyphemus does is he's like, okay, he basically snatches up all the humans, locks them in his cave, and is just like, yeah, I'm going to eat you guys for dinner later. And so then Odysseus escapes by stabbing him in his single eye. I mean, he does a whole plan, but I'm just briefly going over it. And they sneak out under the sheep so that he can't pick them up because he's like, oh, it's just the sheep getting out. And so, yeah. But yeah, so it's interesting. The Cyclops is said to come from the elephant skeletons.
Yes.
Because if you look at an elephant skeleton, the trunk, like, there's just a giant cavity. I mean, think of a human skeleton. There's the nasal cavity. So think of that times, 10 for an elephant because they have giant trunks. So they also have giant nasal cavities. So there's also, I don't know the word, maybe occipital cavities, but, there's the cavities where your eyes are. So the Greeks assumed when they didn't see elephants before and then they saw the skeleton of the elephant, they were like, that must be where its eye would go. And then they were like, oh, it's a Cyclops because it's got one eye and it's a giant eye. So that's one of the potential origins of the Cyclops myth.
Yeah. So these are very well known. I would say also the date should be taken with like a grain of salt. I don't know if
Yeah.
we said it, but it's
This is when the Odyssey
yeah.
was published, written. You don't publish things. You write them. I mean, you don't, it's ancient Greek.
Yeah.
I don't know what technically counts as publication, but yeah, this is whatever. Anyways, continue. I'm rambling now.
It's all good. Well, we also got Stop It in chat. I don't know if we.
Oh,
those
stop it.
last two
Let's
out.
see. Stop it says that would differ from my plan. Unacceptable outcome. Uh-oh. Okay, stop it.
What is
Oh,
Stop
no.
It's plan? What do we think?
What is his plan?
It cosmic destruction? Does he want? He can't want power. He's already got all the power.
I mean, if you are a being, an immortal being that is able to travel across time, I can imagine all you would really want is entertainment.
Exactly. Yeah, you would want
So-
a good story, a good laugh.
So I
you know?
think that we are entertaining him.
Yeah, and maybe
Yeah.
if we do well enough, he'll make us like immortal or something.
Yeah, exactly. He'll give us the Philosopher's Stone. He'll give us some water from the Fountain of Youth, right?
Yeah.
Because think about it. Turning into a pigeon, seducing Nikola Tesla, that's just, why else would you do that other than for laughs, right?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. That is hysterical.
Right? Like, that's a funny thing. Genius inventor. Bam, in love with a pigeon now. I mean, that's peak comedy right there. So I think he's after some laughs. That's what he's going for.
I think so.
But yeah.
Anyways, yeah, Cyclops, you've heard about him. I've heard about him. Thank you. Next up, we have My Nightmare.
Yes.
My Nightmare, ladies and gentlemen.
You have quite a few nightmares here.
I am a deeply disturbed individual.
Just anything with the ocean. I am a deeply disturbed. Oh, boy.
I am deranged.
Yeah. I am deranged.
All right.
Quote
Charybdis.
Sebastian.
Yeah. Charybdis is supposed to be in the, and I never know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but the Tyrrhenian Sea, and which is near Greece. It's within Greece. It's north
I believe
of
the
Sicily.
Tyrian. Yeah, it's like this triangular sea between Sicily, the west coast of Italy. Rome is on the coast of the Tyrian Sea. Then you've got those two islands, Corse and Sardinia, I believe.
Yeah.
And then you got like Tunisia down at the bottom. So that's the Tyrian Sea. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, go ahead. So Charybdis is somewhere in there.
Charybdis, here, I'll tell you the myth. I'll tell you all about it. Charybdis helped her father, Poseidon. You might have heard about him, you might not have. He's a Greek god of the ocean. He's called Neptune in the Roman knockoff. So Poseidon,
The knockoff,
she helped her father, Poseidon, to capture land by engulfing it with seawater. Because Poseidon's like, I want some land. And Charybdis was like, hey, and Charybdis was a normal chick, a normal girl. And she had power over the ocean, so she helped her dad, and they started taking land by just raising the water level, basically. So Zeus gets a little angry. He's like, hey, Poseidon, you're kind of stepping out of your depth, man. So Zeus is like, you know what? Now you don't get a daughter. So he changes, you've lost daughter privileges. So he takes Charybdis, and he turns her into a monster, the monster that you see here, and he forces her to drink the sea. She has this insatiable thirst, and she has to keep drinking the sea. But as you know, seawater doesn't make you any less thirsty.
Yep.
So
it's salty.
Unyielding thirst as
wow.
penance for her and her father's greed. So this was also in the Odyssey, which is why it's got the same date.
Yeah.
It's pretty stationary. Charybdis is. This was the Greeks' explanation for whirlpools. Because, or riptides. Because if you've ever seen a riptide just yank someone, it seems as if someone's kind of just sucked them out into sea.
Yeah.
So they thought that there was this massive beast that was doing that. And in the Odyssey, Odysseus has to sail through this strait, and basically the strait has Charybdis on one side and Scylla, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, Scylla.
Scylla is on the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
side, who is equally
Like a
as
nine-headed,
horrifying. Yeah.
nine-headed like demon that eats people.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
the huge.
the
Um,
huge.
and I think I don't know which way he went, but in either case he
Like
had to
he
deal
tries
with
to go through the
Charybdis.
middle.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think some of his guys got eaten.
got. Yeah.
They got.
But basically he gets caught up in this whirlpool and he barely makes it out, but he makes the little Indiana Jones escape and he gets out of there.
Yeah.
Now we have the hostility at neutral. I think
Yeah.
because like it's obviously very hostile, but it doesn't move. It's in one
Like,
spot.
well, it's not. Maybe it's not specifically targeting you. It's thirsty. You're
That's
just getting in
also
its
true.
way. You're
Yeah.
just getting in its way. You're just a bug in the glass of water. How can you blame Charybdis? She's just trying to have a drink, and then you're just getting in the water. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's neutral. I think that's fair to say
Yeah.
neutral.
I think that is fair. So, that is Charybdis.
Yeah.
And a good
That's Charybdis.
segue into the next one, which is equally as
Yeah, the
horrifying.
Hydra.
The Hydra.
The Hydra. Look at this one. It's got purple, which means you know it's corrupted.
Yeah.
That's like you've got these color theories. Like red is supposed to be aggressive, intense. Blue is supposed to be like calm, but also like heroic. And so the hero corrupted into a villain is purple because it's like a mix of red and blue. Anyway, so the Hydra is from Argolis, Greece, which is like this place in Greece, and it's from. I mean, what else? I mean, it's like Eastern Greece, I believe. I mean, I don't think anyone really cares. It's Argolis, Greece, right? So.
Argolis,
I'm sorry.
Greece is
Yep.
a part of. It's very close to Athens.
Mm-hmm.
It is on the other side of Athens from the Sardonic. Saronic Gulf, not the Sardonic Gulf.
Sardonic. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
It's a gulf that just.
It's a gulf that's brutally, sarcastic. Like, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm the Sardonic Gulf. Yeah, okay.
But I'm sure you're gonna have a safe voyage.
Uh-oh. Yeah, but the origin myth is Hesiod's Theogony, which is another one of these books. Around the 7th and 8th century BCE, Greece had like, I guess, a Rome-like period of good vibes, so they wrote things down. And so the Hydra was a beast whose lair, it was the Lake of Lerna, which is like the lake in front of the underworld. So if you can pass through this lake, then you can go to the underworld and just casually, visit your dead relatives, be like, hey, you're dead. Isn't that funny? And then, but if you wanted to go there, you would have to pass the Hydra. And so the Hydra wasn't specifically guarding the underworld, but it was there. It was an obstacle if you wanted to get there. And so the Hydra has a ton of heads, right? And this is the thing. Say that you want to vanquish the Hydra. How would one go about doing that, right? You might think, all right, if I just decapitate all the heads, then I'll have defeated the Hydra. But you would be wrong, because every time you decapitate one of the Hydra heads, 2 heads grow back in its place.
Exactly.
And so it makes it worse. So the trick is that if you want to defeat the Hydra, it has to, be a flaming sword, because it has to cauterize the wound so that it can't grow the head back. And I believe that if you look at the myth of Hercules or Heracles, one of the 12 labors was he had to defeat the Hydra. It's in the movie too. They show him defeating the Hydra in the Disney movie. But yeah, so that's one of the 12 labors. So he defeats the Hydra. But yeah, very hostile. Look at that thing. That is a hostile creature right there. That's hostile. No questions about it. Each individual head is hostile. No, there's just one of the heads is just actually really friendly. It's just like, sorry, Sorry
Sorry
about my
about
brothers.
these guys. You know.
Sorry, they're you know, I mean, they're a little aggressive. I'm sorry. There's nothing I've tried to calm them down, but they just sorry about that. But yeah,
What's
screams,
even worse? What's
cries in the
even worse
background.
is that I'm a vegetarian. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so that's the Hydra.
Yeah.
There's actually an animal called the Hydra now. It's like a
What?
worm. It's not as cool as the Hydra. Very lame. I think it can regrow limbs though, so that's why they call it the Hydra.
Solid.
But it's like, yeah, but it's like a worm type thing. So
It's a water polyp.
a water polyp.
Water
That's even
polyp.
that's even lamer somehow than a worm.
Somehow.
You're a water polyp. That's in the new insults. You're such a water polyp. Anyway.
That's the Hydra.
Yeah.
Very, like, I mean, it's what they chose the evil organization to be in the Marvel universe.
Oh
Hydra
yeah.
versus
Yep.
Shield.
Yep.
Know. But anyways, speaking of things
with multiple heads, yeah. You've got Cerberus. Yeah. Cerberus, 3-headed dog, Argolis Greece again. 8th or 7th century. It's also Hesiod's theogony. So this dude Hesiod, he was like, oh yeah, Cerberus guards the underworld. Satan, or sorry, not Satan. That hadn't been invented yet. Hades has this guard dog named Cerberus, and Hesiod actually described it with like 50 heads. Hesiod, I think, just really liked things to have a lot of heads. I don't know what Hesiod's deal was, but later they were like, okay, this is a bit too much, and you know, we got to make vases here, right? We got to make vases. How are we going to make vases if we have to draw 50 heads? So they toned it down to 3 heads. So Cerberus is the 3-headed dog, which is fun. I think isn't in Harry Potter. I think it's not called Cerberus, but they have a Cerberus type dog. Like they have a 3-headed dog guarding the whatever the place where the Philosopher's Stone is, right, in the first movie.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, inspired by Cerberus. Also, something fascinating is that Cerberus, the name, some theories say that it comes from the word Kerberos, which means spotted. And so the joke online is that Hades named his dog Spot. Isn't that cute? But yeah.
That is cute.
It is pretty cute. Cerberus is a good boy. That's what I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so hostility neutral, because if you don't enter the underworld, Cerberus won't attack you. So, you know, just avoid the underworld. I think that's just a good general statement, life advice. Avoid the underworld. Right? I think that's some sound advice. But yeah.
It's fair.
Yeah, fair. So yeah, you got Cerberus, this big watchdog here. Pretty cool.
Yeah. So dogs are cool. Anyways, next up we got
next up
we got the Basilisk.
Basilisk.
This is my gamer tag on multiple
Your
games.
gamer tag.
Because
Basilisk.
I made those accounts when I was 8.
Is it Sebasilisk?
It's very close to that. It is.
Okay.
It's actually in some parts it's C Basilisk.
Okay.
A lot of people call me Sea Bass.
Yep.
But it's actually on one of the more recent ones. It is Basilisk 128. If you wanna.
Ooh, Basilisk 128. Nice.
1v1 me on like, Modern Warfare.
What game? Yeah, I don't have that, but yeah. So the Basilisk is Cyrenaica, Libya, which is like the eastern. Yes, I have. It's like right and left. I'm like yes, this is the eastern half. So it's like the eastern part of Libya. So it's the eastern part of Libya, and yeah. So the date that it was first described, 79 AD. You got this dude Pliny the Elder. And his book Natural History, he describes the basilisk as a creature that can kill with a single glare. So it's really fascinating because the actual quote says, also having this ability is the basilisk, blah, 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 blah. And if you look at the context, right before he talks about a like monstrous cow creature that also has the ability to kill with a single glare.
Okay.
I don't know why that was included, but
Fair.
right? I don't know. So, but the basilisk is also able to do that. It's able to kill with a single glare. That's the basilisk. Very hostile. I mean, if it looks at you, you die. That's pretty hostile. It's like the opposite of Medusa. You look at Medusa, you die. If the basilisk looks at you, you die. You know. But yeah, so the basilisk is also in Harry Potter. I think J.K. Rowling really was a fan of Greek mythology. What do you think? Or
Yeah.
is a fan? She's not dead, but when she wrote the books, I mean, when she was writing,
her career, but
her career. that might be true. But yeah, so so she is a fan of Greek mythology, I presume, because she's got a lot of Greek mythology things in Harry Potter. But yeah, so you got the basilisk. There's also something fascinating called there's also something called Rocco's basilisk, and it's not a snake. It's just a concept, which is that at some point in the future, what if there is an AI advanced enough that it can resurrect people from the past by just, building them up off of data? Like, think of this. Think of, machine learning algorithms, essentially. We have like 200 hours of our banter just publicly available online.
Yeah.
So say in the future there was some AI. Rocco's basilisk is the idea that the AI would reconstruct people that were opposed to its creation and then torture them forever. So if you don't want to be tortured forever, you have to create an AI that will torture people forever. And so it's called Rocco's basilisk because just knowing about the concept forces you to come to a conclusion one way or the other of whether you would support the creation of the basilisk. And so it can kill you with a single glare, because if you're like, wow, that's pretty messed up, then the Rocco's basilisk will resurrect you and be like, you opposed my creation, so I will now torture you forever. So yeah. I have probably killed you with a single glare because I just told you about Rocco's basilisk.
Oh no.
Think about that,
You've
viewer.
doomed us.
I've doomed them all. Ha ha ha. Yeah. It's interesting. The original forum post where the Rocco's basilisk thing was posted, they took it down precisely for that reason. They're like, we can't tell people about this. People are getting like existential crises about this. So please don't get an existential crisis. And if you do, don't blame it on me, please. Just say, I don't know, it was something else. I think there are plenty of contemporary things to have existential crises about. So yeah. There are plenty of things. It's 2020, right? Yeah. I think we're covered on existential crises. But yeah, so that's the basilisk.
There you go. Coming straight out of Libya. Next up, Siren.
Yeah, the Siren. So the Siren, it's like a mermaid, so you don't like it.
I don't like mermaids, man. Mermaids are pure evil.
Yeah. So the Sirens, they're just casually on the Greek islands. They're on the rocks. And they just sort of sing very beautiful, alluring music and entrance sailors. And then the sailors will steer their ships toward them because they're like hallucinating, or not hallucinating, they're, what is it? Hypnotized. That's both H words. Hypnotized. They're hypnotized, and they will steer directly into the craggy rocks and just shred the ship. If you know anything about sailing, you know that you don't want to run into shallow waters with craggy rocks. It will not end well for you. So the Sirens pretty much do that to people. So they're hostile. They're like the Siren Head, which, the names, they've got the same names, essentially. So that's fascinating that the Siren Head is like that. Even though the siren is referencing the actual thing, the sound-making device. Yeah. But it also behaves like a siren, which is interesting. So yeah, that's the Siren.
Yeah, so Also in the Odyssey, Odysseus had to put wax in his ears.
Yep.
Or he had his crew put wax in their ears. Well, they just tied him to the mast.
Yep.
Because he was a
Yeah.
little curio. He was like, you
I
know
think it
what?
was like I think it was like they needed one person to be able to like be
Yeah.
like, we're all clear. So he had
Oh
to,
yeah, that's also true.
yeah. He was curio. Yeah, he wanted to know what it sounded like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would. Like
Yeah.
what tunes are they bumping? Like they gotta be just spitting out
Straight bops.
straight bops, like straight bars. You
Yeah.
know. But anyways, um, yeah, sirens. Mermaids are pure evil. I could get into this. I'll release my manifesto on
Oh yeah. Your manifest.
why we require a mermaid genocide. But
I don't think there are any, so I think you've already won.
uh, well, they obviously are hiding. Why? Well, ever since
Ah.
July 6, 2004, their life has been in critical danger.
Uh-huh.
um,
That's funny.
but yeah, no, sirens, they don't move. They don't move. They sit on their island and they're like, and they get idiot sailors to come over. But me, I'm
All
built
right.
different. I'll hear that and I'll be like, you know
Built
what?
different.
I'm sailing by.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna go that way.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And then
Resist
they
the
sing,
siren.
and they sing, and they're like, "We got some Takis," and I'm like, "Okay," and we just turn the boat all the way over. But anyways,
Road safety laws prepare to be ignored.
next and finally, before some final
Yes.
thoughts and some final
Yep.
memes that I've
Yeah.
constructed.
He's constructed some memes.
We
Finally.
have giants, which are pretty
Yep.
universal. I think it's the best one to end on because this is probably the universal cryptid. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of things have the wild man cryptids, and a lot of things have the ghost story cryptids.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see those as like local legends. I think giants are the universal cryptids because humans go around and they see a bear, so they come to terms with the fact that humans are not the biggest thing out there, and then they see stuff in the water and they're like, oh, we aren't even close. We're not even close to it. So it's no small. It's no big leap to imagine that people would be like, oh yeah, what if they were really big?
Yeah.
Going into Norse mythology, they believe that the entire planet, and this is actually very common in a lot of, specifically Norse. The second one that comes to my mind is Babylonian myth. They both believe that the entire planet was created from the bones and other various body parts. New Jersey's the dick of massive creature.
Okay.
In Norse mythology, the creature is Ymir, or sometimes Oglbar, I think is his other name. But Ymir was this incredibly large creature, so large that they were actually able to make I think there's either 7 or 9 realms. They were able to make all the realms besides 2, which were the starting ones in the universe, out of Ymir's body. So he was 5 realms big, as big as 5 planets. And Odin and his 2 brothers killed Ymir, and they took his bones and they created the universe, not the universe, the world out of it. In Babylonian myth, it was the body of Tiamat, and Tiamat was killed by this other guy who had a massive epic battle with him, and after that he took her body and made the earth with it. But so the idea of massive creatures, it has both religious and non-religious stuff. Like, you could just be like, I saw a snake. What if there was a bigger snake?
Well, yeah.
That's how you get the basilisk. Stuff like that. So origins for giants, there's really none. Like, the global average height for men is 5'6". These guys are above that average.
Yep. Well, I'm glad to know that I'm actually average because I always thought it was below average.
Yeah, well, in America you're below average, but
okay. Maybe I should go somewhere else. Where should I go?
South Korea.
I guess I could go there. I don't know Korean though, so it wouldn't work.
You don't need to know Korean if you go to
You don't need to?
No,
okay.
They all speak English. But
interesting.
giants pretty universal, probably the most universal cryptid because they answer the question of
Yeah.
if we took a man, we made him bigger,
Hmm.
what happened? But anyway.
I feel like it's proto-cosmic horror. Like it's the earliest, like it's that little tingle in the back of our minds that sprung forth to create cosmic horror. I feel like that's giants because traditionally, like, what's the most universal, most traditional symbol of power? It's just being large.
Beef.
You know, being large has a pretty strong correlation with being more powerful. Although nowadays we think of, like, I don't know, wit or like agility can also be powerful, you know, or just literally just having money, right? Or just having power. I mean, I'm talking about things that have power, right? So that's sort of, it's like a self-definition, but I mean, like being, say, a politician, you know, having a seat in office, right? But as far back as you can go, like the only universal constant that meant you had power was being physically larger. So giants are like a statement of like, oh, what if we are defenseless? You know, like Michael Stevens says, what if we are powerless? What if there are stronger beings out there? So I feel like that's where giants come from.
But yeah, so we're gonna move into some final thoughts. But before that,
let's look through the memes.
I've made some memes, so I'm gonna have to hit present and present again. And first
All
up,
right.
our lad Siren Head.
When it's it.
When
Oh, this is off to a great start. I love this.
Next up, just
do you want to read them or should I read them?
Just 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. He's a good salesman.
He's a good salesman.
Next up, Party Rockers. I spelled house wrong.
That's the point. That's the point of the meme.
God.
Party Rockers in the house tonight. It's actually Party Rock is.
What?
It's actually Party Rock is in the house tonight. That's the second part to the meme.
That makes it even funnier then.
No. That's the second part. I thought, okay, you don't know the full meme then. It's the meme goes, Party Rockers in the house tonight, and then someone goes, it's Party Rock is, and then it's like, yeah.
I didn't know that was an actual meme.
Yeah.
I just thought that was funny paired with that horrific rendition of a Wendigo.
Like, yeah, that is a pretty scary.
That is horrific.
Yeah, I don't even, not even aesthetically pleasing. I don't like this Wendigo. I liked the other Wendigo with the what was it? The deer skull or whatever. That was cool. Yeah. But yeah.
Next up, manual breathing.
Manual breathing, no. That's not good. Oh, you can see the bridge in the background of this picture. Is that supposed to be the bridge?
That's absolutely supposed to be the silver bridge. Yeah. Look at that. And nextly, what if we kissed on the Goatman's bridge?
Oh boy.
That is the Goatman's bridge.
The Goatman's bridge, yeah.
Foo Fighters versus Foo.
Oh boy. And then what do we have here?
And then this. And if you
look, the daguerreotype.
If you look closely within the daguerreotype, you will see an even more horrifying aspect.
Oh no, he had to do it to him. Zoom in on that. Zoom in on that.
Oh my god. I don't even know if I can zoom in on
top left, you can, there's the zoom button. The magnifying glass, top left. Yeah, zoom in on him.
He is.
He
there he is. Anyway.
Oh my god. Anyway, back to final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
So, cryptids. Very fascinating. I would guess none of them exist. Other than like the Kraken, you can argue that the giant squid is what the Kraken was, but like I would argue that these don't really exist just because, you know, scientific method, right? But I think it's very fascinating as a cultural phenomenon that cryptids seem to be just a common thing across cultures, that people believe in these beings that don't exactly exist. They represent things to these cultures, right? They represent concepts, but they can also be like morals, like stories, like didactic stories saying like, don't go into the woods at night
Yeah.
because the Wendigo will get you, even though in reality it would probably be the bear or the cold that gets you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just fascinating. So these creatures are there, just didactic stories, also just urban legend. I think it's fascinating. Just pop culture. People want to believe is fascinating. Like, I want to believe, isn't that the phrase of like the alien UFO believer people?
Yeah.
But I think that is, well, that's, I don't believe in what those people believe in. I do think that that is a very fascinating phrase as just like the catchphrase of human psychology. There's like confirmation bias. People want to believe in things. People like, reality is much more boring than it seems, right? People are always theorizing and like, oh, this crazy thing, this sort of ties in with last week, like this crazy thing's happening, when instead it's just some simple solution. People like to be entertained, people like to think something interesting is going on. So I feel like the cryptids are just a fascinating manifestation of that phenomenon. So yeah, I like the cryptids.
Yeah. Cryptids, I just think they're funny. They're the lads.
Yeah.
Man, they're just
The lads. Exactly.
And, some of them are nice, some of them are benign, others are very not benign. But,
Very not benign.
You know what?
Yeah.
We press on, because sometimes
Yeah.
you're gonna meet people and you're gonna be like, wow, this person is a cryptid, because they're just straight hostile and
They're hostile.
But
Yeah.
we've survived this long with the Chupacabra, Jersey Devil, Mothman. They're all running around, and we're still here.
Yep. Yeah, we're still here.
I would even say that Mothman's got your back.
Yeah.
I feel like he's the leader. If there was ever a show about it, it would either be
an
Sasquatch,
anime. Okay.
Nessie, or Mothman.
No, you have to have a TV tropes, 5-man band. So you got to have, there's the leader, the lancer, the heart, the brains, and the brawn. So that's what you got.
The heart is Nessie. The leader is Mothman. The lancer is Sasquatch. Or were the other two?
No, I would say Sasquatch would be more like the big guy, because the big guy is also often the silent type. The lancer is usually like the rival to the leader. So the lancer is also like the one that'll like rebel and like go have a loner episode where they're like, I don't need you guys, I can get this done on my own, and then they go off. But then at the same time, if the leader's like incapacitated for some reason, the lancer will be the one that like takes the charge and like leads the group.
That's Jersey Devil. Jersey Devil is
yep.
the lancer.
Oh, that's a good one. And then what was the last one? The smart guy. Who would be the smart guy?
Ooh, wait.
Among the classic cryptids.
Among the classic cryptids? Here, let me take a look back at the list.
It's got the Horseman, the Chupacabra.
Zoom back out.
Kraken, Yeti, Wendigo.
Here, how do you just? Okay, I returned it.
Oh yeah, you have to zoom back out. Yeah.
All right, so we got Squatch, Nessie, Jersey Devil.
Goatman.
Headless Horseman could ironically be the smartest out of any.
Oh, that's true. That's fat. Yeah, I like that.
All right, so the squad is
the cryptid
Squatch,
anime.
Nessie, Jersey Devil, Horseman, and Mothman.
Yep. That's a nice lineup.
There you go.
I think you're greenlit.
I'm greenlit. I'm white.
Yep.
I'm so look at how much light my skin is reflecting. My camera is actually broken.
Yeah.
The lighting
really?
is changed. Yeah, I'm gonna get a better one.
Oh wow, that sucks.
But that's why I've been very pale this episode. But anyways, let's end it off on Mothman, on this still image.
Just All right. So yeah, thank you guys all for watching this episode. Thank you for participating in the chat. What was I saying? Thank you for participating in the chat. It's fun to talk to you guys.
Do you guys smell
to our
burning
audience.
toast?
Oh boy, no, there is no burning toast. I really hope not. But I just can't stop laughing at that now. But yeah, so also thank you, Sebastian, for being my co-host as always. It's fun to be here. Season 5 is going very well. Very intense season. We'll have another few intense episodes for you guys, really intensive subjects. Next week's going to be fun. And then I am very excited for the week after next week. This is the main event. This is a big episode. This is like a very plot relevant episode, essentially. So get ready for that. I'm very excited. And so, yeah, thank you again all for watching. And goodbye. End stream.
Bye-bye.